last time. Did that work?
Yeah, yeah, it was good.
Okay, good. Good.
All right, and we are live. Which All right. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon,
And I'm Nathan.
and tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 1998 movie Ronin. Nathan, do you have a history with the movie Ronin?
This came out in the year where I was working 80 hours a week. This was definitely like something I would have got from Blockbuster and with a stack of movies and just watched
Yeah.
at some point because I remember this was when I first moved to Michigan. This came out and I was a busy man. I did not
Yeah.
get to see movies. Matter of fact, the first movie I watched in theaters here was the original Matrix. So.
Yeah, I think that I only rented this, but I remember there being kind of like a hype around it. At least the commercials look cool.
Yeah, it was something I wanted to see.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, I forget. Yeah, it's just been a movie I've always liked, and then
Yeah,
it seems like it's not necessarily like reviewed that well, but it's I don't know. People seem to like it, but I don't know. I guess like it or dislike. I don't know. It seems somewhere in between. It's a lot. It's a lot of bring your own stuff to it because if like this is definitely like one of those like post Cold War movies where it's like, oh, what do we do with these chess pieces no longer that they're no longer needed? And it's like and that was like pretty heavily done in the '90s, so this wasn't necessarily new ground, but it was kind of like it had more of a grounded kind of feel to it rather than
yeah.
like the Mission Impossible or the Bond movies that were coming out around this time dealing with the similar stuff. So
Yeah, it didn't seem like too over the top. It was just like nuts car chases. But it's like, but they weren't flying through the air or stuff like that, or at least
no,
not in a way where you wouldn't imagine that would be possible.
yeah, this wasn't Fast and Furious stuff, but I mean, though, what made it crazy is like it's like, oh yeah, European streets, like those are famously narrow and not really meant for cars. And here you
Yeah.
go, here's a fast car chase through these streets. So,
Yeah, the chases through these what they call streets, what we would call alleys, is like nuts. It's like
yeah.
let's run the car up to 100 miles an hour in an alley in Nice, France, and it's like, okay, wow,
And it was as far as I know, almost entirely practical. Whereas nowadays it would have been they would have done a lot of CGI stuff to get around this. But
oh yeah, well, some of the driving stuff in this movie, I've read different trivia and I heard different things listening to other material about it, and they drove so hard they were starting to run out of cars by the end of filming. They're just burning the engines out of these cars. You know,
yeah,
they're not. Especially there was a lot of French cars featured in this movie. French cars outrunning and outracing German cars, which is like, okay, if you know anything about cars, you know that's like not really like realistic that a BMW is going to go head to head with a Peugeot. It's like I think
yeah,
because if you just look at if you're a weirdo like me and you go to the Internet Movie Car Database and you look up like what were these cars and what engines did they have, it's like all German V8 V6 big engines versus small four and underperforming six-cylinder French engines. It's like
yes, but
I guess like in spy movies, like well they modified the engines or something.
yeah, well, that's the thing. They modified the Audis. I know that, but it seemed like all the other cars were kind of just picked up as they went.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, he
yeah,
was driving an Audi S8, which those are, I mean, they don't even make those anymore. Those are insanely fast, powerful
yeah,
sedans.
and they put a nitrous system in it. It's not like
Yeah.
featured as a button. He just says it. So I don't know if they did that in reality. I doubt they did, but he just it's something a line to put out there is like, oh yeah, they're doing something to these cars. These aren't normal cars.
I know a lot of guys that have done a lot of things with a lot of cars. I know one guy that played with nitrous. I will never play with nitrous. I was like, what's the hype? Whoa! Like, oh my God. But the engine was also critically damaged in the blast. Okay, maybe this isn't worth it on a lot of levels. Of course, maybe the suspension of a 1974 LTD isn't like ideal for handling just raw power being poured through it from a nitrous system that may or may not have been calibrated to be used with that. I mean, it was cool. It was like, oh wow, that really does work that way. But it also like just destroyed the engine in 3 days. So.
Yeah, I saw a video where like they had a guy, he had a nitrous system in a car, but it doesn't like it's not like the button activated like you see in movies or even in real life. It's just like you get to the sixth gear and that's where the nitrous exists.
Yeah. No, the way I saw it happen was not like a button you pressed. It was like it was just there was some kind of proportional valve that would just meet, even in this old car, it would meter it. Well, it was a built-up engine too, but it would like meter it based on RPMs or whatever.
Okay.
There wasn't any like press the button, break the glass and hit the button and we're going to go warp speed. That doesn't really happen. But it did. I mean, there was a significant, like the engine ran like it had a turbocharger.
Yeah.
Like when you'd give it gas and then let off, it was like a noticeable like whoa, 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 whoa. And so you could tell like, wow, this thing's like overpowered. But then 2 days later, it's like, yeah, I think I spun a bearing. It's like, yeah, I think you did. That was a hell of a because that big hill going through downtown where it was like a canal and then you could go up between the buildings. Okay, imagine doing that starting out 30 and then at some point you're at 100. You're not even halfway up the hill. It's like, and then you hit train tracks. It's like, oh wow, okay. But you're still driving like a 1970s, brick on wheels with the brick on wheels suspension, just pouring that power through it. It's like, this is probably a recipe for suffering. Yeah, in this movie, yeah, they had.
But there's traffic to deal with, so maybe these smaller French cars were more nimbler to dart around traffic. So as they try to escape by going the wrong way down traffic. So.
Tunnels. Yeah. I mean, it's best. I mean, the car chase scenes in this movie make even like The Matrix 2. It's like these scenes are still actually more frightening because it's just those are actual cars. Like those people just doing. They're probably not doing it as fast as it looks, but still, it's like that's crazy when they're in tunnels and dodging oncoming traffic.
Yeah, like the narrow streets and stuff. I think it actually helps like sell the speed. They could probably like. I think the term is undercrank the camera because if you undercrank the camera, you're shooting less frames, and then when you project it at 24 frames a second, it kind of does that like Benny Hill kind of thing to it, but at a way that's slightly imperceptible to human beings, and so it'll make everything look faster. So.
Yeah, you're so drawn into like what's going on, you're not noticing the details.
Yeah, or like or probably it was done before, but I know I learned the trivia from the original Mad Max where they just paint the lines closer together to sell the speed, but they also undercrank the camera there to sell the speed too. So,
well, in Mad Max, you didn't have any reference. The only reference you had was the black tags. They were filming in the middle of nowhere. They were filming in the Australian waste, where you could actually get away with that, and still manage to kill people or hurt people and mutilate people and have crazy special effects. Yeah, because when you see people jumping from vehicle to vehicle and like Mad Max and stuff, and you see those scenes being filmed, well, they're going about 15 miles an hour. It's like no one's doing that at 70. No stuntman's getting paid enough to do that.
Oh, there's some crazy
stuff.
There's
guys that'll do that, but
there's some crazy stuff they do now where it's like, they're filming this at speed and someone's like dangling from there's some new stuff out there that like it's done safely, but it seems crazier because like I think it was for it was like I think for Captain America's Civil War movie or something. They have like the Black Panther like running down the street chasing after a car, and like the way they achieved that is like they had a car going about like 50 miles an hour. There's a crane on top of the car that the actor is attached to so that they're safe. But then then behind the car, they're dragging like a carpet that the actor is standing on, and then they're running on the carpet to chase after the car, but it's attached to the car, so that's also going 50 miles an hour.
It sounds like it could go wrong.
Well, that's why they have the crane holding them. So.
Yeah. Someone's gonna get drugged.
It's like, oh yeah, this is technically safe, but this actually looks like way stupider and crazier than everything they did in the old days. So.
Actually, I heard for this movie, like especially like Robert De Niro, like a lot of the actor close-ups, they had right-hand drive vehicles.
Yeah.
But they had left-hand controls built in for the actors, and they just kind of mirrored what the stunt drivers were doing.
Yeah.
So it looks like, oh yeah, like, yeah, Robert De Niro actually looks like he's driving that car that way, like he's jiggering the wheel and hitting the brakes and hitting the gas, and it's like, huh, that actually looks that way. And then I found that out. I was like, well, that's pretty good.
And I guess the guy who played Larry, who was like the driver of the group, demanded he do his own stunts. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's great
No,
trivia.
it's true.
And then John Frankenheimer said, "I better not see brake lights."
That was the thing. He said, yeah, no brakes. We're not disconnecting them either. We're not taking the lights out, because usually they just unplug the fuse so it doesn't look like the guys are hitting the brakes, but
Yeah.
they didn't want to film it that way.
Yeah, because John Frankenheimer, like I'm trying to think of. Well, I know he did a movie called Grand Prix, which he learned a lot about filming car stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other car stuff he did, but these are kind of the two. But I think he did other car stuff. Because he also seems, well, like looking at his career, he seems to be mostly like the thriller, political, action drama is kind of like his thing. Like maybe
He's made some of my favorite movies I'll reference a lot. Like The Manchurian Candidate is a cool movie.
Yeah.
The original one with Frank Sinatra. That's a really cool movie. 7 Days in May is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was looking up the synopsis for that. I thought that was crazy because it was about their trying to overthrow the president because they want to like stop nuclear testing or something like that.
Yeah.
And that came out in '64, which that also means that's when Doctor Strangelove came out, and that's when what's the other one? Failsafe came out. It's like, oh, that was a year for like nuclear bomb stuff. So.
Yeah, well, 7 Days in May is your classic like right-wing general coup stuff. And there's one guy that like Kirk Douglas like figures it all out. And that's a pretty cool one. The Manchurian Candidate speaks for itself. The Birdman of Alcatraz is pretty. That's got Burt Lancaster in it. That's actually pretty cool.
I was reading the synopsis for Black Sunday, and that seemed wild as hell.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I haven't seen it, but like the synopsis for it is like there's a Vietnam vet who's disgruntled and wants to kill himself, but wants to take as many people all out with him before he goes. He happens to drive a blimp that goes over the Super Bowl. He gets hooked up with a PLA terrorist that wants to basically build a giant shrapnel bomb out of the blimp to kill all the people at the Super Bowl in order to like fight against the U.S. supporting Israel.
Yep. Very timely. Also based on a book written by the same guy that wrote Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It was his first book. Yeah, it was Thomas Harris's first book.
I was like, oh, wow, this is wild.
It's a cool movie. They could remake it now. Well, basically Tom Clancy did with Some of All Fears.
Yeah.
But yeah, that they could remake that.
Yeah, because really, like, yeah, the two Frankenheimer movies I know the best is this and Reindeer Games, which is like his last movie that was released in theaters, and so it's like, oh, what a thing to go out. People really hate that movie. I remember liking it, but it's like not a good movie, but it's a fun movie. And it's like Ben Affleck basically being like, yeah, I'm gonna just have fun. I'm not gonna be serious.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I remember watching it, and it's like I didn't think it was the worst thing on film, but I also went into it with like not a lot of like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. Because he also did the Hullcraft Covenant, which was who was in that? I think Michael Caine was in. That was those Robert Ludlum novels like from the 70s about the Nazis in South America,
right.
overthrow America. Because there was all kinds of films in that genre. There's like The Boys from Brazil, the Hullcraft Covenant. There was a few of them, and he directed one of those. And The Train's kind of cool. That's another one. That's kind of like Dr. Island of Dr. Moreau. He was called in to replace the director. But it stars Burt Lancaster's in that too. It's about stealing a Nazi train in I think it was in France. Just their adventures on the plane or on the train. It's not as good as there's another movie that it's a Nazi train movie that's better. I can't think of the name of it. It's pretty famous though. but that was in 1964. So
Okay.
John Frankenheimer was pretty busy
Yeah.
because then he did Grand Prix. This was his next movie.
And he did French Connection too. I don't know if he tried to do a car chase in that movie or not. Maybe. So.
That's when, yeah, that's when Popeye Doyle goes to France.
Yeah.
And just like embraces the French love of alcoholism. It's not as good as the first French Connection. It's interesting though. It's shot in such a way that it's like, it's a different kind of character. I also did some weird movies with Roy Schneider. Did a movie called 52 Pickup, and then he did one called The Fourth War. It was about and they both had Roy Schreider in them, and I forget what 52 Pickup was like. Roy Schneider was a real estate mogul, and his wife was a politician, and there was some video of them making having a threesome with someone, and then these guys broke into their house and stole the video so they could blackmail this guy.
Huh.
It's not a great movie, but it's a canon movie from the mid 80s.
Oh, it's a okay.
Yeah, it's one of those deals.
Well, wasn't Scheider in like the Marathon Man? So were they trying to do something like that?
I think so.
Okay.
I know The Fourth War was Schneider, Jürgen Prochnow.
Oh yeah, it's on the border of Czechoslovakia or something like that.
Yeah, and it was kind of dated at the time it came out. So it's like, yeah, Russia's falling apart, or Soviet Union's falling apart.
So yeah, of course, directed by John Frankenheimer. This is him coming off of the disaster that was the Island of Dr. Moreau, but it's not his fault, so I don't think he got blamed for that. So
yeah, he was again the replacement director.
So maybe he got this movie because of that. I'm not sure if this was a big budget movie or not. I'm not even sure if it was a hit. I just know it's a movie I like. So
I don't. Budget was 55. Its gross take was like 80 in America. I don't know international.
Yeah.
So, but I know a lot of people say this was the last good Robert De Niro movie before he just went into the.
Oh yeah, this is his end of his middle-age action era, and then from here on he goes into like doing like the Meet the Parents and then like Analyze This stuff. So he's just like, after this, he's basically taking a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a kid when you're like 79, you got to keep taking paychecks.
Yeah, you got to keep. You think you figure out how that happened by this?
So it came out September 25th, 1998. I don't think I saw this in theaters, and neither did you. So we probably both saw it on video in 99 or something like that. The cinematographer is Robert Fraze, or probably be like Fraze or whatever, because he's French or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does a lot of French stuff. The first thing we recognize is he did Citizen X, the HBO movie.
Okay. Yep.
Like 7 Years in Tibet, Ronin, Enemy at the Gates.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
He did The Notebook, which I think that was directed by. It's directed by the son of John Cassavetes' son, Nick Cassavetes. So
Nick Cassavetes. Okay.
This guy worked with him on pretty much all of Nick Cassavetes' stuff, which his stuff seems interesting because he's like both an actor and a director, which like his dad was. But he doesn't really take like big swings on his movies. He seems to like shoot a lot of rom-coms, but I don't know. There's probably something interesting there. But this guy keeps coming back to shoot movies for him. So, because it seems like a lot of stuff he does now, it's stuff in France.
Yeah.
But also he's probably fairly old by now. He's born in 1940, so yeah,
he'd be up there. He'd be 80 something.
Yeah, 84.
Yeah.
Written by J.D. Zeke and was it Richard Wise? But it's a pseudonym for David Mamet.
Yeah.
They did not. They did not write it together. And there's some dispute about. I guess like I don't know. I forget who brought it. It was maybe it's Frankenheimer brought him in, but there was argument over how much like David like was suggesting that he basically rewrote almost the entire like screenplay, and then the studio was insistent that this JD Zeke get credit, so they give him a story by credit, and then David Mamet asked his name to be taken off of it or have a pseudonym, so they put a pseudonym in. They just want to call him like a script doctor, like he just came in and did lines, but it made it sound like he rewrote a lot of the structure of the movie. So either way, well, if you look at JD Zeke's filmography, it's like he didn't do a lot after this. Nothing's more notable than this. He wrote like a Steven Seagal movie. That's about it. But apparently he's like a teacher now at like some New York college for acting and theater and stuff like that. So he got a good gig out of this. So
Yeah.
and of course, David Mamet, he's like the greatest.
Greatest dialogue guy ever.
Yeah, dialogue. Yeah, because I don't want to be like he's the greatest screenwriter, because mostly everything about his movies is like, oh man, this is alluring, fantastic dialogue that kind of obfuscates like bad storytelling a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not necessarily bad storytelling. It's like the dialogue is so good and distracting that you forget sometimes that the story, you don't care about what's going on in the story. You just want to hear people deliver dialogue.
Oh well, yeah. Let's talk. I mean, the number one movie for that is the one he directed too, called Spartan.
Yeah.
It's like if you just pay attention to that story, it's kind of ridiculous, but you love when these guys talk. They are gonna say so. Nobody sets them up and knocks them down like that in real life. Man, that's cool talk. I think the only guy that comes close to is like Quentin Tarantino, but his is more banter.
Yeah.
Whereas David Mamet's like his people. It's like I want to say that to someone someday.
Yeah, sometimes with Tarantino, it's dueling monologues. Where like Mamet, it's a collective. Like it takes two to tango to make this dialogue dance. Rather than Tarantino's, it's like two comedians waiting for their turn to talk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I say that's a good metaphor. Yeah.
And then the cast is Robert De Niro, Jean Reno, and Natasha. Is it McElhone? I've always called her McElhorn, and then I realized while looking at this, it's like, oh, there's no R in there, so it's McElhone.
Yeah. 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 I always thought it was Natasha McElhone.
Okay.
How I said it, but I'm turning the C into a K with them because I don't know how. Because what's her?
She's from
background?
London.
Oh, she's English. Okay, I don't know how that works. Since maybe she's Scottish at some point in her ancestry.
Well, I always know her for playing Irish characters, so I didn't know she was like born in London. So
Walton on Thames, Surrey, England. I always want to be born in some place with like hyphens in it. It's like that sounds dramatic. It's like, no, we're just peasants. Like, okay. Now she was like, if you wanted an exotic, beautiful woman in the 90s, you hired her because she had was she a model?
I don't know about that.
If she wasn't, she looks like one.
I mean, she's definitely like that 70s hot where it's like big head, small body.
Yeah. With the cheekbones and everything. Now I did learn like something horrible happened. Like her husband, like she was this big actress. Her husband was a plastic surgeon and they lived in London, which means that they lived in a really nice part of London. And he just up and like had some kind of heart attack and died.
Huh.
Like she hadn't given birth to their third child yet. And he just fell over dead.
Huh.
And I guess she was never really recovered from that. Never really, like, she does act and stuff still. But when I heard that, it's like, that's devastating.
Huh. Yeah.
It's like, because you've got two young children and a third one on the way, and your husband just no warning, just drops dead.
Yeah.
And you hear that and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, she mostly does like TV stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like the best thing in the new Halo series.
Yeah, exactly. You recognize her right away.
And then she was like the ex-wife in Californication, which means she just kind of showed up and disappeared in every episode. But yeah, otherwise I don't have like necessarily like, oh, here's a standout movie she's in. It's like, you're just like, oh, it's her. She's in this movie.
She was like the 90s. Like I said, if you wanted someone that looked kind of exotic,
Yeah.
and different because she was, like you said, she played.
Like
She
here,
was,
she's playing Irish, and I think was it the Brad Pitt one? Is she also Irish in that? Because that's another IRA thing movie.
yeah, the Devil's Own.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember. I know she was like the female lead in that, or one of them.
Okay. Oh, is she married to um, Harrison Ford in that movie or something?
No, who plays his wife? His wife's someone else.
Okay.
It's someone age appropriate
Oh, okay.
because she would have been a lot younger than Harrison Ford at that time.
That doesn't really matter.
Her
She's
I'm looking up the character. Her name's Doherty, like an Irish name. So
okay.
she probably did play an Irish person.
Yeah, because that's all I know of her. Because I just assume she's Irish because I know her for playing Irish characters. So
She was the love interest in the Truman Show,
okay.
and she was in Laurel Canyon. That's the one. It's like a bunch of different mini tales,
Okay.
and then she was in Solaris. I remember that one. She played she was this female lead in the American Solaris.
Yeah.
Not the good one, the American one. Good one's the weird Polish Russian one. It's actually a great movie. So, people just going crazy. But yeah, I forget when her husband died. But I know when I was doing research on her, it's like, yeah, she seemed to like be a presence and then disappeared, and then you find out like, oh yeah, she had 3 small children to raise as a you know someone who didn't have a husband anymore. He died.
I remember.
It was a nasty divorce. He just died.
I also remember she was in the movie, this TV show called The First. It was about being the first astronaut to be sent to Mars, and she plays like this slightly autistic, basically Elon Musk character.
Okay.
I remember I don't know if I was in a bad state at that time, but like I like binge watched the show the night it came out, and I was like, oh, this is a great show, and then it was just like, and then like immediately after, like everyone just like rags on it, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess it did suck, but whatever. I guess it was in the right place, right time for me to be about it, but yeah, it was incredibly overly dramatic and stupid in a lot of ways, but I just like space stuff, so. And also has like what's his name? Sean Penn getting like jacked at like 60.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, you can do that?
Hey, well, there's a will.
Yeah. Well, this guy basically went from like he's like this smoking thin guy in every movie he's in to suddenly like, oh, he looks like Sylvester Stallone, like when he was in his 40s, when he's 60. And then Jean Reno is like basically, this is also his action era. Maybe it might be the end of it. I'm not sure. He's mostly a big French actor, and then got famous here for Leon the Professional, and then they threw him in the Mission Impossible movie. So this is kind of like right along the lines of what he was doing around this time. So
Yeah, Jean Reno's kind of the same guy in every movie. You like him,
yeah, yeah.
but he's always that guy.
I think it's well in Mission Impossible. I think he was just a straight up evil character, but here he's like the kind of sympathetic, capable killer, like kind of like he was in Leon the Professional. Although in Leon the Professional is even sadder because he almost seems like a child in that movie. It's like, well, I just kill people. It's what I do.
Yeah, he's just a guy who couldn't deal with anything.
Yeah.
Other than like, I mean, he could deal with a lot of stuff, but it was either bothering his conscience or this was all he could be. It's like, this is how I survived.
Yeah, that's all the.
And we got Stalin Skarsgård.
Oh yeah, we'll come across a bunch of people in this movie, which
Bean doesn't die in this.
Yeah.
One.
I was kind of waiting for that to happen. It's like, well, that's his thing. He has to die in a movie, but this is also like post like GoldenEye, so it seems like he's kind of slumming it here.
Yeah.
Being that he disappears like maybe like half an hour into the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to see him. It's like he's going to play a major part. It's like, no, he's not.
Or I thought like, oh, is he gonna come back in the third act and redeem himself? Nope.
He's just a drunk.
Yeah. We'll debate about what's going on with him. So, So you have Act One. I wrote way too many notes for like maybe the first part of this movie because there's a lot of silence, but there's a lot of just like stuff happening. So get ready for a front heavy first act notes. So, we get titles. In feudal Japan, the warrior class of samurai were sworn to protect their liege lords with their lives. Those samurais whose liege was killed suffered a great shame, and they were forced to wander the land looking for work as hired swords or bandits. These masterless warriors were no longer referred to as samurais. They were known by another name. Such men were called Ronin. So that's where the title comes from.
An interesting, like old school, almost Lord of the Rings Tolkienish typeset on that.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to see that. It's like, is this the intro to was it Conan the Barbarian? Like, what are we watching here?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, there's always that weird disconnect where they have like the title in the movie has like one typeset, but then like you're treated to like the poster and like the video covers, and it's like a whole different typeset. And like, but like in my mind, it's like the poster has the correct typeset. It's like, why didn't you use the poster font? It's like, well, these things are created separate from each other, so. Or like in the poster, it's just like it's Robert De Niro pointing a gun like at you, but it's like a SIG, and like in this movie he's like famously using like a 45, but then for like the last half of the movie he's using a SIG, so it's not inappropriate, but
yeah,
but the 45 gets all the like gets like a history and a background to it. So. We open in Paris, but there's not. I think, if I remember correctly, Frankenheimer didn't want to use a lot of like establishing shots or like fade in, fading out to do like to designate time passing. So he just had like color ways to just cut to another scene and knowing that time has passed.
Yeah.
So there's actually like not a whole lot of like titles to say where you are, like it's like as much as happened. I think there's like they tell you when you're in Paris, they tell you when you're in Nice. I don't think they tell you when you're in Arles.
No, I don't believe they do.
But I think there's weirdly a subtitle for the like tailor supply shop. That's the other like title that comes up.
Yeah, that's right, because it says it in French and then it just like subtitles it in English. It's like, do I have subtitles turned on? No, I don't. What is this? Okay.
I did have subtitles turned on. It was weird because some of them, the bottom half, like if there was two lines, sometimes the bottom half on the second line would be cut off. I don't know what's that. I don't know what's going on there. I watched on Max, so I don't know if they had something weird going on there. But so yeah, there's just a lot. This movie just has a lot of like straight cuts. So
yeah,
I think it's like either he was trying to prove something, or it's just kind of like a discipline where it's like, sometimes more creativity comes out of constraints than freedoms, and so that's one of them. So open in Paris. Sam, played by Robert De Niro, is like descending some stairs with ominous music. So you're on like what's going on here? I don't know.
It's a very 70s spy movie vibe.
Yeah. I don't know if these are these stair set famous. It seems like they would be. I'm not sure.
I didn't really notice. No.
Okay. He hides in an alcove and he watches Deirdre, played by Natasha McElhone. She leaves a car and enters the bar. The bar seems full of suspicious people. They're all kind of like looking back at each other, and you don't like.
It seems like the most guilty bar in France. Everyone's here to kill people.
And you don't know if everyone's suspicious or if they like, wait, I know you, but I can't act like I know you. This is like an accidental high school reunion. It's like, wait, I know you. It's like, I'm not going to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Then we have Vincent, played by Jean Reno. He comes in on foot and kind of like briskly walking towards the bar. We see Deirdre is tending the bar now, which seems kind of weird because it's like she's putting in like a 30-minute shift before they close it down. Vincent orders something. He's speaking in French. Then we got Larry, played by Skip Sudeth. Or Sudeth, I'm not sure how you say that. You've probably seen him in something. He's in a lot of TV stuff. Here he's just kind of like an interesting looking guy. And I don't even know, like, like, because he's like another American, but like, you think he's like another ex-CIA guy, or who do you think he did? Or is he just a professional wheelman about the world?
Yeah, I think he could. Yeah, he's like one of those mobile wheelmen. It's like I just drive cars really fast. I'm the getaway guy.
Yeah,
It's the guy like Jason Statham played that guy
yeah.
to a more ridiculous level. Uh,
Um,
yeah, I'm thinking that's what he is as a professional driver.
okay, so you don't think he's ever associated with an organization or anything?
He might be. I mean, he seems to have a lot of criminal skills, so
Yeah.
he's familiar with firearms. He's not afraid to carry firearms in a foreign country. He's, this is all kind of a thing for him.
Yeah. So yeah,
He's like the nicest guy.
yeah, yeah.
He's like the only guy who's not like trying to be a hard ass all the time or just some dour assassin. He's sort of like, yeah, what are we doing next, guys?
I like driving cars, and this is the best opportunity to drive them.
I just want to go fast. He's like Ricky Bobby.
We're gonna do shake and bake. What's the bake part? Fire a grenade launcher at a car. Actually, he's not in that. He's not in that scenario. He just plays bumper cars in the
Yeah,
big
he's
chain.
really good at driving people off the road because he wants to be able to whip it. And that's, it's like, I didn't know what that meant at the time. But now I think it's like, oh, yeah, I just want to modify the suspension so it can make hits and just bash people.
He's alone in a booth looking around suspiciously. Sam is outside casing the bar some more. He like walks around behind the back, which he has to like descend stairs. It's like a weird thing. I'm guessing this is all a real place. I'm not sure. I don't think this was a set. So
yeah, it seemed awkward enough to film around. That it's like, oh, this is France where build stuff on top of stuff for 500 years, and it's like, well, here we are. Or not even 500 years, like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Going back to the Roman Empire.
So yeah, he's looking for an exit, and he hides a gun behind some empty bottle crates, and then he goes back round to the front and enters the bar. Which this gun was to say like, oh, what was this? Is like a 1991, 1911 or something like that.
Yeah, Colt M 1991 A1 Series 80.
Okay.
It's a modernized version. It's basically what Kimber does now.
Okay.
I believe it has like the fully supported slide spring and all that. Like the spring actually, the rod guide, the guide rod and the spring are actually full length.
Okay. So yeah, Sam walks in. The bartender says they're closed, and then he asks for a small drink, and then heads to the bathroom. And then he unlocks the back door on the way out, and the guy's like pointing the other way. He's like, okay, and then he leaves that unlocked, and then he goes to the bathroom, and then you see Deirdre grabs a gun out of her coat. Then Sam comes back for his drink, and it's just like this little bit of wine. He didn't even say what his drink was. Guy just poured wine. So maybe that's what you get in France when you just ask for a little bit of drink. Deirdre questions him, and he pretends not to understand. Which I don't know. That seems weird. It's like as he's trying to think, like, oh man, my French is so good. I'm just a French citizen.
Yeah.
Or what he's trying to do is he's just trying to intentionally act dumb. Like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. That's not my.
Well, that's always his thing. Is like because later on in the movie, people ask him questions. He'd be like, I don't know, I forgot. He's not going to answer your questions. He's not going to reveal anything he doesn't want to.
Then Deirdre opens the back door, and everyone hops in a van. Which here she looks at the lock and realizes that he unlocked it for a reason. And then he goes and grabs his gun and says, like, I never walk in a place I don't know how to walk out of. And then she goes, then why will you get in that van? And he's like, you know the reason, which is money, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Ultimately, it's not the reason, but for now, that's his character flaws. He needs money.
Yeah.
And he's got skills that are incredibly specific. So that we cut to the van gets taken to a warehouse. Here we have Spence, played by Sean Bean. He's like watching overhead, which I thought he was a part of, like, because what gets revealed is like Deirdre's kind of running things. There's this mysterious wheelchair man who kind of put the whole team together, but as like a third party. But ultimately, they're working for the Irish, or the
Yeah.
IRA or something. Um, and so, but it seems like Sean Bean's character Spence was like a part of this because he's already there waiting. But then it's like he seems weird as to like how he fits in everything. It's like somebody was doing him a favor, or he just conned his way into like a cool, like what he thought was a cool situation. I'm not sure what's going on. So
Yeah, I don't understand his character exactly. I don't think they knew what to do with him.
no. Then we have Gregor, played by Stellan Skarsgård. He walks in carrying suitcases, which I guess that's his thing. He's just always got He's always got a suitcase. He's got a case of something all the time. So Deirdre is part of the group. They're hiring all these mercenaries. No one knows what the job is. The mercs hang out for a bit. Spence is like, "You ever kill anybody?" And then Sam's like, "I hurt someone's feelings once."
Yeah.
So,
I love those answers.
Yeah. Which just it's the non-answer that's left to imply like, "Oh yeah, I killed lots of people."
I don't even think about it. Why are you thinking about it? It's not a big deal.
Spence seems suspicious of Sam, but you're not sure why. I guess all these people should really be suspicious of each other. So. Yeah, because if they are all Ronin, then they have no leaders. Then like, what if they have? Then that means they have to have their own code. And what is it? And is it contravening to what the mission is? You cut the next day. Sam wakes up. Vincent gives him a cigarette. Which here I don't know if this is like how French cigarettes are, but it's like a wide case. Like it's not like a Marlboro case. It's like really wide. I'm not sure if it's single stack or if it's
only Americans and Canadians have the square pack.
Okay.
Where all 20 of them are kind of in the square pack. Everywhere else in the world, it's always the wide pack.
Okay.
Unless if you're buying American cigarettes, then it's the square pack.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why that is. It probably has something to do with packaging.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what kind
of. When I go to tobacco stores and buy like foreign cigarettes just to try something different, they always came in the wide pack.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm guessing these are French cigarettes.
You quickly find out when you smoke foreign cigarettes, it's like, oh no, we do have the best tobacco. There's a reason everyone wants American cigarettes. And it's not just because you look cool smoking.
Yeah, these seem to almost like a yellow waxy looking cigarette, and I don't think there's a filter on them. I don't know what kind of cigarettes these are, but yeah, they're interesting. Deirdre hands out money to everybody. They're getting like $5,000 a day, where it's like, oh, that seems good. And they, and she tells them like what the contract is, like that they're on for like a month or something like that. They also basically seem to have like almost unlimited budget to get whatever tools they need for the job, which is basically like raid an armory and a parking lot, raid the Audi parking lot, get all the cars. So then they need to get a case from some guy, and it's as vague as that. Like, they don't know who the guy is. They don't know what's in the case. They don't know where they're going to be. And all these people are asking fair questions that she has no answer to. It's like, no, there's a guy with a case, and we need to ambush him. It's as simple as that. And they're all like, it's never that simple. Spence tries grilling Sam, but it doesn't really work. Because it's like he's trying to like, he's doing to other people what basically like they should be doing to him. It's like, I don't think you belong here, and so he's like trying to like do that before people look at him that way. Everyone's like writing down notes in different ways. So like Gregor just has like a official notebook that's meant to be writing notes, and then Sam's just writing down notes in like the margins of a newspaper. And they're very vague. I'm not sure. They seem to be like almost like pictographs rather than like sentences or anything like that. And also that's just a very like 70s spy thing.
Yeah.
Actually, it goes all the way back to World War II about weird stuff, weird espionage stuff that's like run through newspapers and things like that. Larry has needs for cars and equipment. This is where you hear him saying like, oh, I need an Audi R8 and like and then I need a nitrous system. And he's like, I'll draw you up the specs or something like that. And then Vincent's our guy in France who can basically get everything. So everything's in France, or I guess everything's in Paris that he can get to. So, Um, Gregor walks up to Sam and he sets a coffee cup next to him, which kind of like Sam is suspicious about. And then he asks him like, "Hey, what brought you here?" And then there's a mention of the man in a wheelchair brought them all here, which in the trivia I read said something that's like a reference to, um, I'm forgetting it. Born Identity.
Oh, okay.
There was like a man in a wheelchair character that like put people on jobs or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which I feel like when I look at this movie and think about the Born Identity movie franchise, I feel like this is almost a template for Born Identity. Although,
Yeah, weirdly, this almost holds up better than the
oh
Born
yeah,
Identity.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
this does have shaky cam stuff, but it's like, it's appropriate.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Whereas in Born Identity, it's like, here's our feature, shaky cam, and they use it way too much.
This is the invisible character in the movie,
Yeah.
Shaky Cam.
Yeah, it implies action, and it's like, nah, you're going a little too far with it. We don't need the shaky cam for like the fight at a like an office space. um,
Oh, I looked up those cigarettes while you were talking. The reason those look that way is they were made with corn paper.
huh? Okay.
But they also had a lot of tar in them, which with the paper gave them very interesting flavor. But the French government, like in the 2000s, like limited the amount of tar, and you couldn't use that paper anymore. So they basically don't exist anymore.
Huh? Okay.
All the fun stuff's been ruined.
Appropriate for this movie.
Yeah.
um. And then Sam sets up a situation where he like knocks over the coffee cup off the table, and then Gregor grabs it before it hits the ground, and so now basically Gregor is suspicious because he has reflexes that's not expected because he's kind of set up because he has glasses in the '90s. That just means you're like the nerd tech guy, which he is in this movie. And
Yeah, he's like an East German computer guy who works with the KGB.
Yeah, which I didn't know what he's supposed to be for it, but yeah, eventually it just says like, oh, East German KGB, which you don't know like where do his alliance stands because that's weird.
Who does he hate more at this point?
Because yeah, what is Stellan Skarsgård? Is he Swedish? Is that what like his?
Yeah, he's Swedish. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know if like that was supposed to be his thing because like I don't feel like he's really trying to do an accent either way. I just feel like he's just being Stellan Skarsgård in this movie. So.
Yeah, that's always worked for him as being the same guy because it's always kind of a cool look.
Well, I mean,
plus he's the only actor I know who's really rich and says, oh, I should pay a lot more taxes. It's like, wow, never hear that from anyone.
Yeah.
He's like what he calls a pro-tax advocate.
Yeah.
It's like, huh, okay, interesting. But then he realized, oh, he's Swedish. Okay, yeah, they kind of do things like that.
Yeah. That's how that country works.
Yeah. Because to them it's like, no, that means to them that equals we're going to take care of people better. To us, it's like more taxes mean great. Our aircraft carriers are going to float through the air. It's like this is we're not exactly helping anyone.
Well, I mean that's like kind of like the thing I've determined. Like one of the difference between why Europeans can seem so cold about like people in general and stuff like that, and here it's like we got to be like. We have all these charitable organizations to handle these things, and like look at the generosity of the American people. It's like, well, we have to be that way because it's
our government doesn't do shit. So
which I feel like
do our own shit stuff.
But that's why that is what I feel like that's the way it is in Europe. Is like they also don't like homeless people, but it's like that's not my problem. That's the government's problem. That's why I pay the taxes so they can handle this stuff. So.
Yeah, here people are like looking up like how to make silencers at home to solve the whole problem. And those are the normal people. The crazy nice people are like, let's open a shelter. But most people are like, will a pillow muffle a gunshot? And that's why it's such a weird place.
But like, yeah, that's why like Europeans, they don't want to help people because it's like, well, that's what I pay taxes for. So it's like, this isn't my responsibility.
Which is, I actually respect that in a way. It's like, that negates any like pretense I have to have of giving a damn. It's like, no, I pay 70% income tax. This is somebody else's problem.
Which here, like in America, you don't immediately say that. You don't. It's like You just say like, well, where's my tax money going if we have all these problems? It's
Yeah, that's why I said it's like if we had tax rates like Sweden, like I said, we'd have floating aircraft carriers. What's that? The Avengers?
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what we'd be doing. It's like we still have all these problems. Now we have less money, but wow, look at that. That's really something, isn't it? What are we gonna do with that? We're gonna spread freedom throughout the multi. It's like, oh, good. That's important.
Yes, but what about the third rail where we turn all that money onto like the to help the regular people rather than the super military that we already have?
Yeah.
But that's also an impossibility. So I have that being in Act 1. Basically, we got to grab a case. That's about it. So the Act 2,
find the case from Repo Man.
yeah. Here we don't even get a look inside.
It's the ultimate like MacGuffin. Like, yeah, we need it. Okay.
Oh yeah, which I couldn't remember watching this movie if it was revealed or not. Because I remember there's also like around this time there's that movie The Saint where the MacGuffin was just like cold fusion, which that's the MacGuffin in a lot of movies around this time.
Yeah. They thought that was coming right around the corner.
Yeah. Still not here.
Yeah.
Although here there's like they're practicing it, like they got stuff working on it, but it's still like, so it's not an impossibility. It's just like seems expensive and they haven't realized it yet. So,
well, the problem I heard with it, because I always follow the science YouTube stuff, so understand anyone listening, that's the limit of my knowledge. Not an expert here, of course, but it's like they can make it work for like seconds at this point, which is actually a big leap forward. But the problem is they have to pour twice as much energy as they get out of it. So they still have to, they have some
drawbacks,
problems to solve.
Yeah.
But then you're like, why? What is that? And then it becomes super math. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your word. Right? It's like, all right.
Okay, I'll just be the janitor for this power station. I'm not going to run it.
Yeah, that's really all I'm going to do. Because it's like, well, steady state fusion, at a temperature that's sustainable. And it becomes a lot of like words. And because just the problem is the heat of it. Like we understand fusion. We see it every day. But it's like we can't maintain, unless we start building a Dyson sphere, then it's like, oh. Which, by the way, they say those are real now. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard there's like data to suggest that maybe they found a Dyson sphere in the universe, but whatever.
No, I think it's real, and it's the aliens that are coming here or using the Dyson sphere to travel through a wormhole to get to Earth and keep the secrets from us. That's what I think.
But
no, a lot of that's based on that weird thing where there's an arm of the galaxy where suns seem to be going dark.
Yeah.
There's nothing that supports that happening, like because those suns shouldn't be going dark based on their age. Well, and we're also seeing it's from 700 million years ago, because that's how long it takes the light to reach us. And it's like, well, that's just fiction, is what that is. That's just like, you don't understand what's going on, so we're creating something cool. It's not that, nope, it's real, but it's like, man, it would be cool if it was, or it'd be horrifying. Because people that can do that are like, oh yeah, we're screwed.
Well, I was thinking about, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I was thinking about like the Big Bang explosion. It's like, well, technically, I'm not sure if technically is the right word, but it's like, shouldn't that explosion still be happening if it's that like large? So we're just living in the center of a explosion.
Yeah. We're that's what red shift is. It's like that's the explosion moving away from it.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it. It's when you get into blue shift, it's like, no, here it comes.
Well, also there's
like the anti-bang has happened now. all matter is coming back towards us.
Yeah.
To compress into a singularity again.
Well, I think the furthest outreach stuff that we can like observe is called cosmic background radiation. That's supposed to be like what's left of the Big Bang, but I don't know. So,
it's just like the shock wave from the Klingon station that exploded. What was that movie called?
Undiscovered Country.
Yeah. What's the name of their? Did they call it Chernobyl? Was it Klingon Chernobyl?
No. I mean, that's what it is, but it's not. All right, I think it was Kronos. All right, the moon.
Because that has a lot to do with this movie. I don't know.
And Undiscovered
Burapente was the prison they were at.
Country. I mean, that's also that movie's also a Cold War. Praxis is the moon that explodes.
Praxis, that's it. I thought it was just Klingon Chernobyl.
I mean, yes, that's the direct analogy, but yeah. So here we have like the time cut is we cut to a trunk being open and it closed, and now it's revealing all the cool stuff they got for the job. So
Yeah.
now they all have the Audis, and there's like Sean Bean has like his MP5 that everybody loves to do the MP5 slap. I think like that happens anytime somebody's holding one of those.
Well, what happened? More gun companies just need to design their guns to work that way.
Yeah.
People would just buy the most worthless crap. It's like, hey, it does that MP5 slap. It's like, well, let's get on it.
I mean, we got one that technically does that. It's one of the cheapest guns that I've ever bought.
Yeah, never bought a gun that cheap in my life. I don't even know if I want to shoot it. Like, is this safe?
I mean, it's probably not as cool as an actual MP5 slap, but it works that way because I've actually.
I'm gonna get to one because.
I actually found with that gun, like one time I tried to like carefully like undo it from the, the little like latch, the indented piece of metal that it latches onto, and like I got like a cut on my finger from doing it. I was like, I'm just gonna slap it from now on because then I'll never get that cut ever again. So.
That will never happen. I'm just waiting for that reciprocating rod to catch my beard when I'm playing the shooting.
Yeah.
Pulls it down. I'm gonna have to trim this up before we go shooting.
Here when they're going through all their equipment, there's talks of like withstanding interrogation, which here like it's like everybody's kind of interested in it, but it seems like Spence is more interested in it. He's like, it's like because he wants to pretend like he's a tough guy, and then, because he's the one that brings it up. It's like, you ever had to deal with like what do they call it, like long-standing interrogation technique? I forget the word they use for it. But then Sam's like, no, you can't last forever. It's like, I couldn't. And like, what they give you is like a grasshopper, and then they're like, what's a grasshopper? And everyone's interested into it, and he just lists off like a alcohol recipes.
Yeah,
a cocktail recipes. And
so, more effective one would be like what they give you is a Harvey Wallbanger. It's like, is that like waterboarding? It's like, no.
So now it's just left up to your imagination of like what happened to him. And they're all disappointed. It's like, we wanted to hear the end. Then we cut to Larry, Vincent, Sam, and Spence are staking out at a place while they're armed. They're actually here to pick up like more weapons and stuff, and it's weird because that must be a big trunk in that Audi or whatever. But like, there's 4 people in this car.
Yeah.
But there's probably nothing in the trunk. So Spence seems extra anxious. A car approaches and flashes its lights. They pull in front of that car. Spence takes out the list to those other guys, which here actually makes him seem brave because it's like Sam's just saying out loud, it's like, I don't know these guys. I don't know the situation. I wouldn't go there. Like, and then Spence's like, give me the list. So... and then like,
I'll walk into an ambush.
Yeah. And then Spence walks up to these like curious and suspicious French guys. I think they're French. And then like they're kind of weary at first. It's like, hey, you're not armed, are you? And he's like, no. But then like just Vincent and Sam walk out of the car like clearly armed, just walking on the other side. Spence gets the back of the French guy's cars, and he's like, hey, it's not all here. And then another car pulls up in the background. It's like, oh, it's in there. So now like Sam is like, no, this is ambush. You're just walking in an ambush. And then, but Spence like wants some of the money as like, I don't know, like good faith or whatever. It's like, well, we got to get more. You got to get the other stuff, and we got to walk through a tunnel that's clearly an ambush tunnel to get there. And so yeah, Spence goes and walks into the ambush, and then Vincent goes to watch him, just kind of like out of like, it's like, well, this is what they hired me to do. Sam is like, no way, man. So he just kind of stands back and observes, like waiting for something to happen. Larry pulls the car up and he starts moving the cargo from the French guy's car to the Audi. Sam spots a sniper on a bridge and he opens fires on him. It's like, man, shooting a pistol at night with no night sights and hitting a sniper, like, yeah, that's some good shooting.
Yeah, you're shooting in 1911. It's like,
yeah, it's a slow bullet. You got to arch that thing in.
yeah,
And then there's a firefight in the tunnel, and then this is where Spence gets to pull out his MP5, and then Vincent, like, they kind of hide in an alcove, and they shoot all the guys dead. There's just like one weird looking like fat French guy that like almost looks like one of those one of those guys that drive around the little car with the weird hats, the fedora hats or whatever.
oh, he looks like one of the Shriners.
Yeah, he looks like a Shriner, like a fat
He's wearing
Shriner.
a Shriner hat.
And he just gets like killed for no reason. It's like, is this the boss? Is he just some guy? Like, yeah, no idea. But
French criminals are weird.
eccentric
That's
French
in a
criminals.
costume.
Yeah, the French know how to build an underground. That's where all the violence is, because all the normies are surrender monkeys. So yeah, they get away because you hear like sirens coming from all over, and then like, oh, they're coming for us. Yeah, there's a moment where it like hints at a car chase, but then they just like revealed that like they got away. So,
Yeah.
They pull to the side of the road, and then this is where
The classic European, like especially French police cars. You know, it's like it doesn't. It's like, yeah, these guys are gonna catch us right now.
Spence is like bragging about the job going well, where it's like, we kept the money, we got the stuff, yeah, it all went good. But then when they stop, he has to get out and throw up. So this is where everyone's suspicious of him now. It's like, oh, he's not one of us, is he? So.
Yeah, I did my throwing up the first time I killed someone. Oh, this is amateur hour.
I don't know. He's still like, yeah, I'm just gonna walk in an ambush, and he did like, I guess, hold his own, or maybe he didn't even shoot any of those guys. Maybe like Vincent shot all of them.
He seemed to have like some notion of what to do, but he was also like willing to walk straight into an ambush, and it seemed like he was kind of spraying in the general direction and seemed way too excited and not clinical enough. Like the other guys were like, okay, there's a problem to solve here. Oh, they're shooting at me. I need to shoot back. He was just like yelling and firing, which is what normal people would do. Like, yeah, you're shooting at me, die. You know, it's.
Well, he's not normal, but he's also not a professional. So like, I don't know. We'll get further in before we'll like try to deduce like what is actually going on with his character, because like I have theories, but like it's pure speculation. I don't know how this guy happens in here.
Yeah,
it seems like he's like a guy from the wrong movie. Like he was like the bad guy in a Pink Panther movie, and he wandered onto the Ronin sets.
Come on, we got something we need you to do.
Then we cut to Deirdre's getting off of the subway. Jonathan Pryce shows up, and he starts like following her. She gets info that the Russians are trying to bid for the case, and it's in Nice. So that's like the big problem.
Or nice, as we say.
I mean, that's how I wrote it down, but I'm saying Nice because I know how it's supposed to be said. So.
Yeah, it's just funny to see it.
Yeah, nice.
Where do you live at? Nice. Cool.
No,
really?
No,
nice. It's nice.
I didn't make a 69 joke. I'm living nice. So yeah, it's. I mean, I guess like what's going on here is that like the Irish are just trying to steal the case, but then the Russians have the money to buy the case, and so it's like, well, we can't let that happen.
Yeah.
But also I don't know who has the case in the first place. Like I don't know whose case this is. Although there is speculation that it's the Russians' case, so that's weird. Because I believe later on there's Sam says something like, when they're seeing the pictures of the guy with the case, Vincent goes, "Who are we looking at?" And Sam goes, "Our employers." So like I don't know if like, well, that mean they're the Irish, but really I don't know ultimately what that means. So yeah, we get back to another planning meeting. So they need to expedite the ambush because the Russians are going for the case. So it's like now there's 2 people after this case. Again, no idea what's going in it. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about, MacGuffins. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like, yeah, most MacGuffins are unrevealed because like once you reveal them, it's not satisfying. Which I remember which I remember like that was Hitchcock's thing.
Yeah.
But really, it's everybody's thing. Like a lot of people do that. But it can cause some frustration sometimes when it's like never revealed. At least you get in Pulp Fiction, there's like a glow in the case, and so it's just left up to your imagination, like what's in there. And then people have great like like theories about what's going on there. Um, but then I was thinking about like actually like so like in movies that are supposed to be like technically realistic, it's like not revealing the MacGuffin is actually your best go-to because in real life it's never going to be like enough of what your anticipation is building. But for like fantasy and sci-fi, it's actually like that's where you reveal your MacGuffin. Because I was thinking
Yeah.
about like in Star Wars, the MacGuffin is the Death Star. And it's like, all
Right.
right, what's the Death Star do? It's like it blows up fucking planets. It's like, oh shit, we gotta we gotta hurry and get this thing down. So it's like that's a good MacGuffin reveal because there's real stakes that come out of that. So, but yeah, here I don't know. Yeah, it just here it's I don't know fusion codes or whatever. But also it's like it ultimately ends up having to do something with like a negotiation between like with Northern Ireland and peace negotiations. So it's like, wait, what was in there? So, but it doesn't matter. It's that they have to chase after it. That's the chase is the goal. So
Yeah. I don't know. It's something that would be useful to both the Irish, the Russians, and anyone, and other people that wants like, what is it?
or also the other idea, yeah. Around this time, I think I thought like cold fusion, or it was just a suitcase nuke. That was the other idea I had. But it seems like there'd be way more security around this if it was a suitcase nuke. So
Yeah, I thought if it was because they did mention like, yeah, in the end, it's like the Good Friday Accords. It's like led to peace in Northern Ireland. It's like I thought it was like embarrassing information.
oh, okay, yeah. Huh.
Like the U.S. to because we were heavily in leveraging Tony Blair to like let's have peace in Northern Ireland because we couldn't because Bill Clinton couldn't get peace in the Middle East. He's like, well, what about Northern Ireland? Or at least white people we can talk to. It's but yeah, so I don't know.
um, so we have the crew like going over the new even hastier plan that has to be rummaged together. Here, Sam negotiates for more money because it's like basically his employers have run out of answers. So to his questions, it's like, well, I'm gonna need more money. It's like the less concrete this is, the more money I need. So he gets like 100 grand for the job and another 100 grand on delivery.
Yeah.
So Deodra gets on her phone talking with her boss, presumably. In the meantime, like Spence is trying to set up like an ambush, but then he has like when he draws the ambush on the board, he basically has like two people directly across to each other, essentially firing at each other to hit a target in between, which that all seems bad. And and he's like, yeah, it's an old
You
setup.
know about that stuff, like you setting up ambushes and stuff. Like, yeah, you don't create a circular firing squad.
No, no, he even set up like that's what field of fire means. Like when you dig a foxhole, you actually like set up these little sticks on the side where it's like this is like your field of fire. Like your rifle does not point beyond this little stick here, so you're not like hitting anybody, so you know where your field of fire is. And you're supposed to set up field of fire so that like in the distance they interconnect, so you're like covering every area that can be covered, but you're not firing a 360-degree position. So.
Yeah, 'cause you're just gonna kill everyone, friends and enemies.
Yeah.
It's what you call a Pyrrhic victory.
I mean, you can put people on both sides if you both have the high ground and you're shooting at somebody in the low ground. That's like the only point. I mean, that's why like the shower scene in The Rock, it's like that. Yeah, that's why they're screwed because these guys can cover all angles and shoot at them without worrying about like them shooting each other.
Yeah.
And they have cover that they can shoot over, whereas everybody down on the ground has nothing. So. That's why you need the high ground. That's what Darth Vader learned. So, um, Sam gets immediately mad at this. He like erases the board and he's like, draw it again. And he's like flustering Spence and he's like, yeah, come on, take a shot at me. It's like, you got a gun. I don't have anything on me. And he also strategically set down a cup of coffee before this, and he like backs him up in the cup of coffee. The cup of
Yes,
coffee
the
gets
cup of coffee ambush has happened twice. Once has skills and once can't manage their situational awareness.
yeah. And so yeah, he's like, yeah, look, I just ambushed you with a cup of coffee. What do you know about ambush? So then Spence basically gets paid to leave the job. They're like, hey, remember, like, to forget us because we'll always remember you. So basically, it's like, don't tell anybody or we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
I think I forget, he's yelling something at him because like I guess Spence said he was like in some like English special forces or something,
I
like
he was in the
paratroop.
SAS. Yeah.
And then there's a funny bit where here like um Sam is flustering him with the information he should know, and then I guess it's revealed that like he didn't know the information either. He just knew he's like it would
Oh yeah. What color is the blue? Is the little
boathouse.
Yeah, something. What color is the house at Hereford or something? It was
Yeah.
a question like that. So what color is it? It's like, I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what's up with Spence? Do you think? Like, it seems like he's just a nerd that knows a lot of stuff about like guns and stuff, and then just like inserted himself in the situation.
Well, he's an English guy that has some kind of contacts within the IRA. He got on basically an IRA job.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he probably was a paratrooper in Northern Ireland at some point, and he just he got. It's like, oh, I can commit crimes with these people with my like paratrooper training.
Yeah.
And make some money, but he realizes it's like, well, that's people that do that and spies and professionals and that pull jobs, like that's a whole different skill set.
He was just a guy that did training and never actually had any like real world experience. But
Yeah, it seems like he's familiar. Well, he might have been in a couple shootouts with the IRA.
yeah,
But that's just like amateurs and soldiers just hammering away at each other through a city. That's not like we got to plan ahead. We're going to do this and then that and then this. It's like, no, just amateurs are attacking us from ambush, and we have overwhelming superiority in numbers and firepower, and we're firing back, so we always win. So he thinks now it's like I'm qualified to do like elaborate jobs where you're like, it's the opposite. Like you're the force that's weaker attacking a larger force, and he just doesn't know what to do except yell and shoot a submachine gun. That's what I'm guessing.
Okay. So then we cut to Nice. The Mercs are in a hotel. Gregor is doing a bunch of stuff with computers because that's like his thing.
Big 90s computers too.
Yeah,
big old
CRT.
Yeah.
They're all white.
Yep. Drawing a lot of heat. Have about as much processing power as the watch I'm wearing right now.
Probably less.
Probably less. Yeah. Yeah, because this can actually show video and stuff. So yeah, that's weird.
So Sam reviews the job. They got like pictures all over the place. He asked for like the 6th time what's in the case, and they're like, you don't need to know. He's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep asking. So here he asks about the security, and it's like, we don't know anything about them. So he's like, well, let's go out and look at them. They're like, what? It's like, yeah, well, where are they? Let's go test them.
Yeah. See if they're good.
So then they go out to a hotel to case out the security detail that's going to be like that they're going to be ambushing. Like here, like Deirdre and Sam. Well, Sam like directs her, like they're like, we're pretending to be a husband and wife, and like that's what's going on here. We're just touring Nice. I think it's like a tourist to like tricks a tourist to be a part of this like scam where they can get photos of the security detail, which is kind of fun. Here's another one. Here's another like where it's like Frankenheimer's using, instead of doing a fade out or fade in or stuff like that. There's like you'll see hotel workers in the background like putting up Christmas tree decorations.
Yeah,
and they just kind of cut to them like getting tea, and you see that there's just more decorations on the tree, and that's what implies that more time has passed. So that was kind of the discipline he was going for, finding neat ways to show time passage without having to, with just doing it with a straight cut rather than with like a a dissolve or a fade out or a fade in, or just titles on screen that say 15 minutes later or whatever that. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I think all the titles on the screen don't just say where they are. There's never like mention of the time or anything like that. Let's see here. So yeah, Sam also sets up like a situation where he like where he sets a stanchion to like fall if this luggage rack gets moved, and then he tells some guy, some bellhop is like, ah, you better get my luggage. And so when he goes back to the photo thing, the guy moves the thing and the stanchion falls down, makes a loud sound, and he sees how like the security detail reacts to it, and then he gets a bunch of pictures of them reacting. I think they all have like shortened AK-47s or something on that, because that's where they pick up on like, oh, they're all Russian or something like that, or
Yeah, it seems like it's something like that.
or former, or some Eastern Bloc former Russian, thing like that. Um, yeah, this is where like they're reviewing the job for more, and Vincent asks like, who are they, and he says they're our employers, which I'm not sure what that is meant to be. So it's like, well, who are employers? Like, is it the Russians? Is it the U.S.? Is the Irish? Is it the English? But then Deirdre says the ambush isn't happening today, so Sam's upset about this, so he goes and do more recon. Deirdre wants to come with him. Mikatu, Sam, and Deirdre are out scouting the hotel from a distance. They keep coming up with like distractions when cars go by, which then escalates to them kissing when the cops go by. And then when they leave, they do some more kissing. So this is like their whole relationship, and this is supposed to be like, Sam's like 1 weak spot is like, oh, a woman on the job. I never had this before. So. Then we cut to Gregor's doing some more computer stuff. This is like the next day, because we see Deirdre has like a wrench out, and they like a van's on the side of the road, and she's pretending like the van's not working. So, and then Gregor's in the back doing computer stuff. He's like tracking the convoy, because like I think they have some tracker on the guy's cell phone on the convoy, so that's how they know where he is.
I think they have trackers on the cars.
Okay, all right.
Because he can identify like who's an escort and who's the main car.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes
Using
sense.
a giant TV screen, it's like an early form GPS. It's just this huge, like I think he has multiple screens. So
Yeah.
Screens.
Then we see Larry gets in position with his souped up Audi, where he does like he whips the car around and does some burnouts to get in position. Yeah, which the Audis seem extra cool to me now, because I didn't really know what an Audi was till probably like the second Forza Motorsport game. Because that's like a game where you drive a lot of like normal cars and you work your way up to driving like supercars and stuff like that. And so that's where I actually like in the game, I don't know about reality. In the game, Audis are cool because they're fast and they have 4-wheel drive, and that like gives you better launches at the start of a race, and you have some ability to like gear down and take a corner faster. So I learned to like think, Audis are cool, and so I didn't know about them really till like the 2000s, and it seems like Audi's really upped their game to like now they've kind of like, at least in the engineering side, have like surpassed BMW into like what they can do. I don't know like the reality of it. I mean, they're both German auto manufacturers, right?
I think Audi is actually Austrian.
Okay, all right.
That makes sense. Audi. I think the word Audi means like Austria, Union, Deutschland, Industrial, or I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Right, but I think it means like the Austrian-German industrial alliance to build cars or something. Yeah, right. But they could be part of some conglomerate now that's been. I know like BMW is like Ford; they're like family owned.
Oh, okay. Huh.
They don't like you can't own controlling stock in BMW because it's basically all the stocks held by the family.
Huh.
You can buy stock in it, but you can't have controlling stock. So BMW is like a family business, just
also like I don't know, some
blue-eyed men.
Well, also like the Audis are designed like it's like them. I don't know, like an Audi, their design department, they didn't look too much different from Volvos at the time, where it's like they look like grocery getters, but like underneath the Audi has superior technology, at least for straight line speed and cornering. But It wasn't
Well, I
till
remember in the '80s, the Audi was the thing. Was the beauty of all-wheel drive was
yeah,
their tagline. They were like the only company that had it, and then Subaru
yeah,
came along and brought that, but Audi still kept it
yeah.
going. So
Yeah, I mean that's why. Yeah, at least in video games, I love Audi vehicles because there's just it's easier to drive a 4-wheel drive car in racing games because it gives you an advantage to jump off the line and then, like I said, the turning stuff. I don't know the realities of it at all, but um, and then they have like some supercars that are like crazy, which I'm not sure if they've done before now, but
okay, I was totally full of shit. Audi is now a completely German company, a subsidiary of the Volkswagen Group.
yeah, Audi, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're saying that BMW is family owned.
No, yeah, BMW is. No,
Okay.
Audi was. I thought Audi was um, partial was an Austrian company at
Oh, okay.
first.
No, it's part of like yeah, it's a part of some conglomerate there. It's not its own
Yeah,
company. I forget. Mercedes also owns a bunch of other stuff too, but that's also they don't own Mercedes. Does Mercedes own Audi, or is that they don't? No, it's like Mercedes
Volkswagen
and
owns
Volkswagen. Okay,
Mercedes.
yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost no, the only thing that's outside of Volkswagen, I think, is BMW.
Okay.
Because I mean, I think Volkswagen owns like Bentley or something
Yeah, they
too.
own a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're like,
But also, it's weird how like how pervasive a Mercedes is throughout the rest of the world, and not so much here.
well, here they're strictly seen as luxury
Yeah,
vehicles, whereas in the rest of the world, they're like
they're like
taxis,
cabs. Yeah.
yeah, and also luxury vehicles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the same
Because
time.
they made those Sprinter vans here. But I remember when Volkswagen or when like
But Daimler Benz, yeah.
Daimler Chrysler and the Sprinter vans, they started rebadging them with Volkswagen, or I'm sorry, with Mercedes Benz logos and stuff, because they had the rights to that, and it's like, yeah, they're just Chrysler Sprinter vans. Because they used to have like just dedicated Mercedes, but they were just like utility vans and stuff. But people for some reason thought that was fancy here. It's like everywhere else, it's just a van. But yeah, those things have been bought and sold and traded. So, because I know there's like Daimler AG, which like they just make trucks. Like that's not part of Mercedes anymore.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So it's or it is. They share things. Well, it's just like Ford and Mazda are actually supposedly completely separate now. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of like the Escape and the Mazda CRV. It's the same vehicle. But for some reason, it's like, well, no, they're separate now because we used to have an alliance with them of some kind. But now they just
Isn't that a weird thing with like Volvo where it's like Volvo like cars and Volvo like trucks, like semi trucks are
completely
completely
separate.
different. Yeah, but they have the same name.
Volvo, the heavy trucks make a lot of money. The car division never made money. That's why it's been passed around like a redheaded stepchild since the night. Now,
And they gave away the seatbelt.
now the Chinese own Volvo, but it's still all made and engineered in Sweden. So it's
okay.
like, okay, I don't know.
So yeah, we have the convoy is moving in a column down a country road. Sam hides some remote firecrackers in a potted plant. He goes back to the car with Vincent, and he grabs a grenade launcher. Which is funny. This car just kind of looks like almost like a Volvo grocery getter, but I guess it's actually like a special Mercedes that had like a huge engine in it. It's like from the late 70s.
It's a Mercedes-Benz 450 SEL with a 6.9 liter engine, and to translate that into the proper language, that's almost 427 cubic inch engine. It's a massive engine. Now, it's not turbocharged or anything,
Okay.
but that's like bigger than most truck engines. I mean, we do have 427s and bigger engines than that, but that's a huge engine for a sedan.
Yeah.
Even a big heavyweight full frame Mercedes like that, and the ones they have in Europe were way more powerful than the ones we have here, because at one time our emission standards were a lot higher than they were in Europe, so they could have like 500 horsepower vehicles where we couldn't. Now it's all pretty much the same across the board, but yeah, that's a badass Mercedes. I think what's his name, Jay Leno, I think he has one of these where that's like, yeah, let's just put turbochargers on it and see. It's like it gets like 7 miles to the gallon. But I know this engine famously has a single overhead cam,
Yeah.
which means it functions more like an engine from the 60s or 70s and like what we think of as a modern high horse engine. But it did produce a lot of power.
Yeah.
And in terms of Europe, that's like a truck engine in a car. Like that's a hell of a powerful car. Even though they had weird CG smoke on the tires when he backed out.
Yeah,
Like,
because when they first, there's first when they have the tires squealing, it does have smoke, and then they have it kind of, and then in the next shot they have it spinning around. They had this really weird CG smoke that was like obviously like, oh, you're trying to say doing a spin out, but you're trying to cover that up, and it's like it just looks stupid. So
yeah, well, the way you get cars to spin out from that era like that is you bleach the tires.
oh, okay.
You just pour bleach on the ground. That's how you get those cool like white smoke like where it's curling off the engine. Because most cars are designed not to do that. Because that means your car's out of control. They're not locking up on the pavement. And especially European cars of that era and time, because a lot of them had those skinny tires. Because if you notice now, everything, even like economy type vehicles or vehicles like mine, they have big fat tires on.
Yeah.
That's a safety thing.
Yeah.
Those tall, skinny tires with hard rubber compounds, it's like, yeah, you don't need to replace them as much, but you can just fly off the road because they're not grabbing. So, yeah, that's what those older cars you used to bleach the tires. And there was also something called bias ply tires versus radials, which you ask Dad about that. He's a rubber engineer, but yeah, bias ply tires are great for like delivery vehicles and stuff, but they wear out really quick and they're super dangerous because they have no road grippiness at all. You just slide. The back will come right out from behind you.
They get the convoy to stop at a stoplight, which I'm not sure. There's like 2 buttons on this control that Vincent has, and I don't know if one's to flip the light open, because the other one's to fit the firecrackers. I don't know if this is related or not.
Yeah, that would not be. I would want 2 separate controls for those things, integrating them into one, because it's like, oh, okay, time to stop the car, and I'd hit the firecracker.
But they stop at the stoplight, and then Sam just hits the front car with a grenade launcher and disables it.
Yeah, that's one way to get them to stop.
Which I don't think it kills anybody with a grenade launcher. It just like blows up the engine and then like the front windshield. And then they get out and they're looking for a target. And so that's when Vincent hits the firecrackers. And so they start pointing in that direction to shoot over there. And then Sam gets a SIG out, like a SIG rifle out, and starts shooting those guys.
Yeah.
So they shoot up that first car. And then the other cars like start taking off. And so yeah, then they hop back in their brown Mercedes and give chase.
Yeah, it's a Sig Sauer SG-51.
Yeah.
551.
Yeah, I think they had those in Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so they start chasing out the convoy. I think Gregor gives them information like, hey, here's the escort car, because then Sam gets out a rocket launcher, and like a really cool scene because they have the camera on the back of the car. They're like racing down a hill. You can see like off the mountainside, and you can see like how hard it is to try to aim this rocket launcher.
Yeah, it actually gives you a sense of like, this sucks. I'm trying not to like break my back in this car. I'm trying, because operating a rocket launcher is a 2-handed deal, and he has to put his hand down occasionally to stabilize.
Yeah, because he's just like through a moonroof in the car.
Yeah, it would be terrifying. It's like, there's no way I'm doing this. This is nuts.
And then like he hits the car with a rocket launcher. It flips and like slides like 200 feet down a hill. It's like one of the coolest like car explosions in a movie.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Like I feel like after this they just had to escalate. It's like, well, what if it spinned at the same time? I feel like they just been escalating this same like car blowing up for like the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, the one scene is always, there's a great scene in the movie that what's it called? Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah.
Remember when they're using RPGs against the State Department Suburbans in Mexico or wherever?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I thought it killed all those people. It's like, no, it just went through the vehicle and blew up on the ground because those are designed to be fired at armored vehicles.
Yeah.
It was just going right through the body of the Suburban. That's why Harrison Ford can drive the Suburban with like it's all blown apart. It's like, well, yeah, but the rockets like went through. They're not designed to actually destroy like unarmored vehicles. They they'll hit the ground and do like secondary damage, but because it's not like the warhead isn't being I forget how that works. Like it
It's
hits
not being detonated because it didn't hit a hard enough target or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's not spraying the hot copper at 4,000 degrees. So yeah, it's
Well, I
always fun.
remember that was like thing in Black Hawk Down. I know it's in the movie. I'm not sure if it's a real thing or if they just did it in the movie, but there's like the guy basically gets impaled by an RPG and it doesn't blow up because he's a soft target. It just went through him and stopped. It didn't blow up though. So
Yeah, that's his as I remember that happened. I read that in the book.
okay.
And what a nightmare. It's like, could we respect this guy's corpse, but get it the hell away from me because it exploded like a rocket in this guy. Hey, I'm sorry you're dead, but we're gonna move you over here. What a nightmare. Seeing some shit like that, like, oh, is there a god? What's going on here?
So they blow up the car with a rocket launcher. It's really cool. It's like, man, where are they getting all this stuff? Because presumably Vincent got all this stuff. It's just laying around in Paris.
Yeah, one thing I've learned about this movie that I'm gonna, I don't know if I can bank on this in any way, but it's like everything's available and the police are terrible.
Yeah,
Just do this for hours, and eventually, it's like I'll show up in a Fiat that like can't take a corner at 20 miles an hour. It's like, oh, we're fine, we're cool.
then we cut to Larry just knocks out another car. He just kind of runs it off the road, which I don't think it ever comes back. I think like, oh, I think our employee's dead. We might as well just run away now.
Yeah, because the guy with the suitcase in the Citroen is always like, go, go, go. Like, don't stop. Leave the weak.
And then Larry catches up to the case car, and then like he plays bumper car with it, and then then eventually they just do like even though this is like a pretty cool, like fresh car chase, they just like we got to run it through a produce market, so they do that. So.
And then they go off-roading at some point.
But then eventually, like Larry runs the car off the road into like an intersection, and then like he stops the car and then shoots the driver. The rest of the crew like all show up at the same time. It's like, yeah, that's good plan. All you're fired.
Yeah, that really worked out good. I was impressed. It's like, man, these guys are really sticking up.
Well, Sam was mad. It's like, we need 2 extra guys, and then like Deirdre's like, yeah, we don't have it. So this works out for him. If everybody coordinates, you don't need a 2 extra guys. So, Sam just has a machine gun now, which I think this is an FN Mini-Me, which is the M249 Saw, but I think because it's called a Mini-Me, there's a slight difference. I can't remember what, but that's what the gun is based on.
It's one of those guns where it's like someone taking into account like range safety and stuff. It's like, yeah, stay away from me with that. Whatever you're doing, I'm gonna be behind you. My hand's gonna be on your shoulder because that thing is throwing just this curtain of lead. It's like, no, we're not doing a shootout with this damn.
Yeah, I mean that's what machine guns are for. It's to like get people's heads down so you can maneuver your troops around to get like better shots at people. Which that's what he's doing. And I even think this is like a paratrooper version, so it's like extra short so you can like shoulder it and stuff, which means it just has to kick more too. So he's just firing it from the hip because
yeah, that thing looks like it'd kick like a bastard. Because that barrel, I mean, I have like it's not a I don't have to have a short barrel thing, but the gun I have, like my AR is a shorter one. And then like, yeah, that thing will take your face off if you're shooting it all day. It's like this thing's even shorter. Like I can't imagine. And it's a fully automatic weapon too. So it doesn't look like a lot of fun.
I mean, well, I can tell you from what I've handled for a Saw at least, but it was a full size one. It's like they're surprisingly, you can shoulder and fire it. It's surprisingly nimble for how big they look.
I'm not talking about bucking your shoulder. What really bothers me is the muzzle flash and the sound out the front. That really, after a while, and it doesn't bother me like I jump every time, but after a while, I'll just start grinding my teeth and getting jittery. It's like, "Okay, it's time to put the guns down because
Yeah.
this is affecting me in some way that like." Because I fired, like, I remember when I first got that thing, I fired like 450 rounds through it one trying to break it in. And by the end of the day, I was grinding my teeth like a cocaine addict. Like, what's wrong with me? It's like, oh yeah, that thing's going off right next to your face. That's what's wrong with you. It's like, oh, okay.
Then we cut to Gregor uses like a comically small explosive to break the chain on the suitcase. Which I was thinking,
Well,
like,
he could have just chopped his hand off and it would have fit the character.
yeah, oh, yeah, definitely, yeah, especially learn
Just
later
take
on.
a hatchet and boom. It's like, but where's he hiding the hatchet? It's
Yeah.
like, that's weird.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking bolt cutters, but I'm guessing like how they have this. There's probably some special thing you can get, like anti-bolt cutter chains where they have like some special like material they're laced with, but still.
Well, you got to remember, this was in the era before the super lithium battery like grinding tools. Everyone could go buy it,
Yeah.
any hardware store nowadays and get through anything in like 5 seconds. It's like,
But I mean, at this point, like Gregor's the like nerdy tech guy, so this seems like a nerdy tech guy solution. Is like the world's smallest explosive.
yeah, I mean, it's cool and eloquent. I was
Yeah.
like, because he just blocks the explosion like this.
Yeah.
To face it, he just puts his arm up over his eye. So it's like, well, he's not worried about shrapnel in any way.
Then Gregor says he's hit, and he has them take the case, which you're like, he's not hit. That's suspicious.
Well, you also see him bagging up the other case in a black bag.
Oh, you do? Okay, I must have missed
yeah,
that.
because
Okay,
he's like zipping it up, and then he hands
Vincent.
Sam the case, and
well, he hands Vincent the case, but then like Sam notices the paint rubbing off on it because he's like close to Vincent or something. Because then he takes the case from Vincent to throw it underneath the car.
Yeah, because he figures like, and see, I thought at that point what was going on, I didn't think that was paint. I thought that was from a fuse that was burning, and he knew what it was.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I didn't know it was. I didn't put it together with paint. I thought it was like, oh, he lit a fuse in there, and it was near the crease, and it like burnt his hand.
Oh, okay, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that like det cord and fusing. When it goes, it will burn the shit out of you. Your hand's close to it.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what happened. I didn't realize till he handed the jacket to Deirdre later, like, get the paint off this woman. It was like, oh, that was paint. Because I thought it was a fuse burning his hand.
Oh, okay.
Because I figured he was such a badass, firing this machine gun down an alley with a bunch of cops. It's like, this burn won't stop. But I do like that Larry uses an early form like compact shotgun.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who's using like a weapon I would consider realistic. He's like, yeah, that makes sense for fighting car to car. Is that I don't know where you're hiding the paratrooper special machine gun.
It's in the trunk.
It's cool, but
yeah, it just seems like he uses so many tools in the scene where it's like he uses a grenade launcher, done with it. Uses a rocket launcher, done with it. He's got that SIG rifle, then done with it. And he's got a machine gun, and done with it. Because every gun that gets used then gets dumped. Never.
Yeah, his philosophy is the best reload is another load. Like, I'm not even reloading any of this. We're out of bullets. Grab something else. This would be like tens of thousands of dollars worth of weapons.
Oh, well, yeah,
especially
even more.
If they're obtained illegally.
Yeah.
How much do you think a Fabrique Nationale Mini-Me is on the black market? At this time?
Black market? Oh, that's probably got to be at least 50 to 100 grand.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very. You could rob a bank in North Hollywood with that,
Because I know you can get a saw. I think they're like 15 grand. The single shot ones, you can get them here, but the semi-auto, yeah. I mean,
if I'm paying that much, I want to be full auto, baby.
Yeah.
I want to spend $500 in 3 seconds. Bullets.
I mean, you do get. I mean, with the semi-auto, you do get like. Well, actually, I don't know how reliable it is, but you do get, presumably a reliable 100-round mag, which is almost impossible to do.
Yeah, that's a rare unicorn there.
But that's what you get with belt fed stuff, where it's like when you have those weird mag pull 100-round drum mags, where like in video games where there's no jamming, it's like these things are perfect. Why doesn't everybody have these? And then you can real life, it's like, oh yeah, because they don't work half the time.
I think me and Grayson were in a gun store once. Yeah, we were, because we frequent those places sometimes. And we were in there, and he's like, "Oh, these look cool." I said, "Yeah, those all suck." And the guy's like, "No, they're a lot better." And I was like, "Dude." Sometimes, usually I don't argue with people, but sometimes I'm like, "Dude, you know those things don't work." Well, I said they're getting better. He immediately
Yeah.
like, "No, I said they're getting better." It's like, okay, yeah, they're getting better.
um let's see. Oh yeah, so yeah, he throws the case under the car, under the like the target car, and then it blows up. Um, so yeah, they've killed everybody in the convoy now, except for that one car that maybe got away.
Yeah.
Unless they pulled up too and started fire, I can't remember. Maybe they did. The crew get out of there. We see that Larry took a hit in the leg because he's kind of running like limply. They hop into another car, and then Gregor runs off with the real case. And so now there's now they're screwed. Now they realize like, oh, Gregor's screwed us over, and like we have nothing to show for it, but we still got to somehow do the job when we've executed a plan perfectly, but now it's all screwed up. Then we cut to there's like a choir singing at night. I would say it's like a candlelight vigil because they literally have candles, but I don't really know what's going on here. But you do see the police are out in heavy presence, so like that's like after the day's events, it's like, yeah, we need the cops out here.
Finally, the cops show up. He's firing a law rocket, and it's like, hey, look this up.
People doing the forensics on it, like, what happened to this car? It got hit with a rocket launcher. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? We see Sam's in the crowd, and then he heads back to the hotel. We cut to the inside. Larry's bleeding. Sam does some first aid on him. They want to trace Gregor, but like they don't know how. But then, like Sam kind of reveals that he can like use a contact to be able to trace the phone. He's like, all right, yeah, I'll get a guy. So then we cut to some guy goes. Oh no, this is a different thing. Yeah, so we cut to, I think he's called the Dapper Man or something like that. There's this guy getting tea, and he hops in a Jeep. Gregor's in the Jeep. They move about 10 feet, and then they stop the car to talk to this guy. Gregor frisks the guy and takes a gun off of him. I like how he just like casually just throws the gun in the back.
Yeah.
And then Gregor goes to a playing ground, and he's got like a Glock 17, but like a long version of it. So it's probably a Glock, whatever that is.
Glock 17L.
Okay. And it's got like, I don't know, this is like an EOTech or something on it. It's got like a red dot sight on it, but it has a huge battery case on it.
I looked this up. This is a Bushnell hollow sight.
Okay.
EOTech had the patent on this. So it wasn't EOTech, but they weren't launched as a company yet. So Bushnell manufactured it. They were terrible because the reticle got scratched all the time. There was all kinds of problems. It required a huge battery. They were $600 in late 90s. So that would be like probably $2,000 today. Yeah. And the batteries literally lasted, you could run it 45 minutes before you had to. So yeah, this was definitely, because I looked at like, that's an EOTech. That's an early phase, like pre-patent, venture capital money like EOTech, but no, it was actually Bushnell made them for EOTech to the civilian market. Because nowadays, like, well, I mean, I have one.
Yeah.
And I got a different kind there. They're expensive, but they're not that. They're like $500 expensive. They're not like that kind of money expensive. Yeah. And on a pistol is really weird. You don't need those. But back then, that's, if you wanted a laser sight, that's,
yeah. Gregor's the tech guy.
Laser reticle, that's what you had. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and like and Gregor's the tech guy, so that it makes sense for him. And like,
if you're a former Stasi, KGB, whatever he was.
So he aims the gun at a child as a negotiating tactic. And then he pulls the trigger, and the guy knocks the gun, so it misses the child. It's got a silencer on it too, so nobody hears the bullet. So,
yeah.
So yeah, that's Gregor's negotiating tactic. So it's like, okay, he has no morals
This
whatsoever.
guy's just pure evil at this point.
Then Gregor gets a briefcase of fake money, and then the T guy pulls another gun on him. He's like, "Where'd you get that from?" He just kind of laughs. Where it's like, which I don't know, like your imagination immediately goes to what he pulled the gun out of his ass. What's going on here?
Yeah, the guy patted him down and threw his Jericho 9mm in the back seat. Get his Taurus.
But he missed his he missed his camo Glock. Because that's what I noticed when I looked at it. Because I paused it and it had like, oh, it's a Glock with like camo paint on it. It's like, okay,
Weird.
you blend in with his forest of pubic
That's why
hair.
he couldn't find the gun.
And then he's so yeah, the T guy, he tells the T guy that the case is in the back, and Gregor uses as an opportunity to like hit the gas and then hit the brakes real quick, so like it launches the guy forward, so it gets his gun out of his sight line, and he just blows the guy's head off.
Yeah.
And again, nobody hears it, and the window doesn't break. Just, you know, it's got that. It was like, it's like the Die Hard scene where the brains just splatter against the glass.
Yeah.
Then we got to, there's ice skating. There's some Russian guy. I guess this is Miki.
Yeah.
He gets a call from Gregor. Gregor ups the price for trying to kill him, which again, I don't know, it's weird. Like, oh, we're sorry we fucked you over, but like we'll try this again, and they fuck him over a second time.
Yeah, and you know they're gonna do it.
It's
There's
like,
no doubt these are Russians. You know they're gonna do it.
but it's clear they have the money to just do the deal. But it's like, no, that's not how we work. But again, I don't know, like, what if there's like further thinking where if like, I don't know, era Russia is this where they've like, is this by the time they've like basically split up Russia and there's just like these oligarchs that own everything, and these are just like
this is the mafia era.
Okay.
I mean, the early mafia era. It's still a mafia era. It's never left its mafia era.
Yeah.
Even though it was the Soviet Union, it was just one big mafia that like claimed to love communism. But yeah, it was still the mafia.
So like these all just like former soldier guys are now thinking like gangsters. And so,
yeah.
Okay.
They have skills that can like transfer to, you know, killing people.
Yeah.
And whatever they, well, Russia throughout the 90s was basically all the stories were built around the liquidation of the Soviet Union and what dangerous crap can we sell to people, and of course we're all just evil, and that was like classic. I mean, it was just Goldeneye. That's all Goldeneye was. It's like just the liquidation of, you know, the Soviet Union into the wrong hands.
And then let's see here. Then we cut to Sam makes contact with the guy, presumably that he was like knew from the CIA or whatever. There's a fun little scene where it's like, "How do you know I spoke English?" It's like, well, he had an English newspaper and stuff like that. And then like when he gets in his car, he basically acts like, "All right, we know each other. Like, you're not a stranger to me." And then the crew sit down for like brunch or whatever, because there's another one of those time things where it's like some time has gone by, because he gives this guy a number, and then like he calls him to like the brunch place's phone number to like tell him from his car the info he needs, rather than getting out and directly talking to him, to kind of like, you know, keep suspicion down.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, he tells him like Gregor's in a town called Arl. Which I don't know Arl. Do you know Arl?
I know Arl.
Okay. Then we got to Gregor and crew are both in Arl. Gregor's not with them. He's just separate from them. Gregor hires someone to hand a note to some Russian thugs, which I think I read somewhere they said these were German thugs, but I think these are all Russian here. These are all Mickey's guy, because Mickey's a clear, just straight up Russian, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guy, the main guy at this weird stadium where they're meeting him, his name's Sergey. That's not a Russian name, or that's not a German name.
Okay,
so.
all right.
I'm just, these are all just straight Russians to me. I even see the Stellan Skarsgård character, like he's acting more Russian.
Yeah.
It's just he looks German enough. Like he doesn't really look Russian. So, but then again, when we see in Chernobyl, it doesn't really matter, because he's like, he can play a Russian pretty good.
To Americans, as long as you just play European, then you're all whatever you want us to be. So we don't.
Yeah, they're all kind of scary communists. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Boris Shabinin, why not? Yeah.
Everyone is converging on the amphitheater, which is just like, um. So yeah, was this like part of the Roman Empire? Then it's just saved over from those times, or
I believe so, yes.
because I think they mentioned something like let's go to the Roman baths, and I was like, wait, are we in Italy? It's like, oh no, it's just something that was built in France by the
Yeah.
Romans.
This was built, this was a place for the Roman legions to rest while they were fighting the Gauls in who we know as the French
Okay.
nowadays. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think they said this was built in the first century, right?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
called the Arlis Amphitheater.
Okay.
It's a Roman amphitheater. Um, it's actually pretty damn big for something built that long ago. That is amazing. This makes me want to go to Europe just to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I don't want to talk to anyone. I want someone to drive me around. I want to see these things and leave. I want to show up like a potentate from an evil country and be like, I appreciate this, but nothing else. I'm from the current Roman Empire. I want to see the other Roman Empire before it's all gone and we're all gone too. And then you Gallic savages can have it all back. And you just get in my limousine and leave, and everyone's like, "What was that fat guy?"
I don't speak English. What did he say? It doesn't matter.
Why was he speaking English to me? Because he's an arrogant. That's why. He assumes everyone speaks English in Europe just with an accent.
and why do I pretend like I didn't know what he said?
Yeah. He looked me in the eye and pointed at me.
And he spoke louder like I was an idiot.
Yeah, that helped.
Then Gregor's talking with the Russian guys, which it's like, well, this is supposed to be a handoff, and clearly they don't have any money, so like this isn't gonna go well.
And Gregor clearly knows this too.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to negotiate with you from 150 feet in the air, about 70 yards away. I'm assuming to stay out of pistol range.
Yeah.
And like, it's the weirdest negotiation. Like, this is a negotiation about a negotiation, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
Because it's this ancient place, and but yeah.
And then Seamus, who we've seen for a second time now, because first he had like information on the guys with the case, but now he shows up. He's kind of like running a scam on Larry. He's like, "Hey, do you know the location of this?" And Larry's like, "Hey, go away, man." Then we cut to Sam gets a gun on Gregor. Then like he's moving him out of there. Then Gregor uses the crowd to get away from Sam. Sam like air tackles Gregor like on the concrete steps of this amphitheater. It's like that looked like that hurt.
Yeah, and it's dangerous.
You know,
it's like, that's a bad guy, but you just blew your knee out.
So whatever stunt guys that got to do this, a good job on you. That looked like it hurt. Although I guess there's actually like they do a really good job now where they can like replace concrete steps with just basically padding, but you won't know it.
They'll paint it to look like concrete. Yeah,
so they can get away with that stuff. But this looks like they just tackled a guy on some concrete, so, or I guess limestone from the first century.
Yeah. Yeah, this was when you could still get away with shooting at these heritage sites where you could just like hammer shit into the walls and put camera mounts up and stuff. No one was even pretending to be interested. I mean, I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. Then a firefight kicks off. Everyone's chasing everyone. There's a crowd who's fleeing. Seamus stops Gregor with a car door. It just seems like very like a almost like naive way and like a too simple way to stop Gregor, this guy who's like being chased by three people and evading all of them, and he just gets stopped by a car door being opened up. So.
A guy with cat-like reflexes who is implied to be incredibly strong too. It's like this little Irishman's gonna take him out with a car door, and then
Let me cut to a Russian thug gets the drop on Vincent, and then Sam is able to distract him, but then Sam takes like I guess it's kind of a grazing shot. While Vincent shoots a thug dead. Then we cut to Deirdre hops in their car, their Audi. I think it's still an Audi. I'm not sure right now. It's a new car. And here she finds Larry with his throat slit, and then Seamus is in the back holding up Gregor, and he's like, "Yeah, drive the car." And then the car takes off as Sam and Vincent like approach, and then they see Larry on the ground with his throat slit. It's like that's like the saddest death. It's like, oh man, all I know about Larry, he seems like a good guy, just doing his job. It's like this.
Laurie was cool. Like, Larry didn't die.
Even Deirdre's like, Larry didn't have to die. I don't understand this. um. So they steal a car and just get out of there. So I have that being the end of Act 2 because it's like, well, now everything's getting even worse. And now one of the crew's dead. Um, so we have Act 3. Sam needs medical attention. Vincent says he knows a place. They go to like a mansion on like a hill where a guy's painting samurai miniatures. You know, this is gonna like run into the title somehow.
Nope.
This character's Jean Pierre.
Michael Lonsdale, who as we know as Hugo Drax from Moonraker.
Yeah,
he's a cool actor. He was in Munich.
Okay. He's
Yeah,
also in The Day of the Jackal, but I can't remember what he played there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he
Was
kind
he
of
like one of the investigators, or was he a main character, or was he like a side character in that? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
But yeah,
Let me look it up. Yeah, he's one of those guys because he's like a French English guy.
yeah.
Who's he mainly does. Oh, he was in the Hullcraft Covenant too. Yeah,
Okay.
So he's worked with this guy before.
So yeah, they operate to get the bull out of.
He was in Name of the Rose too. I forgot. Yeah, he's the abbot in Name of the Rose. That's cool. He died a couple years ago. It's sad.
Oh, okay.
He was 90 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he got us filled in.
Yeah.
They operate to get the bullet out, which this is just a movie thing. As far as I know, the basic first aid I learned for a military situation is stop the bleeding, start the breathing. At no point do they say get the bullet out. It's like, no, don't worry about that crap.
Start digging around in the guy with pliers. What could go wrong? Get a Leatherman out and start. But this was cool because Sam has to like talk them through the surgery.
Yeah.
So he knows something about treating injuries, I guess.
And the other interesting thing is that they pull the bullet out, and he's like, that bastard sprayed it with Teflon. And the guy's like, is that why it went through the body armor? He's like, yeah. It's like, okay. So this sets up a lot of things here where it's like, okay, they're wearing body armor the whole time. And then, yeah, some of these guys they deal with, they think through that and I don't know if that to be a thing. Is that a thing you've heard of? Like Teflon making a bullet to like go through body armor?
Spray Teflon? I don't know. I know you can like,
or I guess maybe these things we shouldn't say on YouTube, or they can.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's fine.
I can't remember. Like, what's it in Lethal Weapon 3? What was the cop killer bullets? I forget what the special thing they did there was. You remember that?
I think they were Teflon, like they were baked on, coated.
Okay, all right.
Which supposedly would give them like the ability to rip through armor, but actually that just takes velocity and the shape of the round.
Yeah.
Because now we're getting to the point where body armor is worthless again because they're just material science is like, yeah, we can just make 9mm bullets that'll sail right through both sides.
Then we cut back to Paris. We have Seamus takes Gregor up to a bathroom to beat him up.
Yeah.
Gregor's like, are you going to kill me? He's like, no. They just beats him up. It's like, why would I kill you?
Oh, I want to talk about one thing I did like in the self-surgery scene.
Okay.
When they were done and they stitched Sam up, he was like, I'm going to pass out now. He really does. The French guys kind of look at each other like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, he tells him, hey, sew me up. And then while you're sewing me up, I'm going to pass out.
Yeah.
Which seems like nothing. Like, I don't know if I could sleep through somebody sewing me up. But in this case, it's like he's in so much pain. He's just like letting his body like go unconscious. Like he's surrendering to his unconsciousness. Because
I did like the thing where he was like because he came in and immediately they offered him booze before surgery. He's like, no, which is like, yeah, he actually knows something about this because you start drinking a lot of liquor. It's like, yeah, you're not going to feel pain, but you're going to bleed like a butchered hog. Probably don't want to do that.
um. So yeah. Seamus beats up Gregor, which it seems like Gregor would just fought back and easily taken this guy out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like like Seamus could do this.
But I don't know. They give I don't know.
Especially violent, vile person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those IRA guys were, a lot of them were ruthless, but
yeah, maybe
stupid too. So it's
yeah, I'm guessing because they give like him a history like at the very end of the movie, and he's like, oh, he's a really dangerous guy. So maybe Gregor knows that, and that's why he's not like pushing back so much because he knows actually what this guy's capable of. But I'm not sure.
That could be. Yeah, because this guy will kill anyone.
Yeah.
At any moment. Like he's not a guy to be like, oh, I'm gonna run a game on him. It's like, no, he'll just kill you. He'll cut his losses pretty quick.
But also, it seems like he's intervening here, where it's like as far as you know, the Irish are paying for this operation, but he's separate from it, or they specifically didn't want to use him because he's too violent, and he's just intervened. Where it's like, no, I'm gonna make this happen. So,
yeah, that could be. Because the real IRA wasn't. I mean, we read that book like Say Nothing. I mean, it's like, and that's all based on Sinn Fein and what's his name? Who's the guy in charge of that? Jerry Adams.
Okay.
And it's like they couldn't even hide bodies effectively. So, it's yeah.
But in this world, like anybody that's attached to an organization that has like an acronym or whatever, it's like, oh, there's like something to it, special training. People have a history and like experience, and it's like these, it's like the GI Joe of like everybody has their special little thing that they do and only they can do it. And so
yeah.
So it's like, oh, this guy's ex-CIA, and that just means something. Like, it's like, we don't know if he was a good ex-CIA guy. So, yeah.
What's interesting about this movie is they made it wasn't the Russians or some Middle Eastern group. It's like, oh, it's the Irish. The Irish are the heavies in this movie. It's like, that's interesting. Because everyone's doing that, like, Belfast. All the Irish characters are doing what you call a Belfast accent.
Yeah.
Which is the only reason I know what a Belfast accent is because I've read so many books about the IRA. And it's like you learn, like the CIA and the FBI in America learn to recognize that accent. It's like, oh, they're here raising money for a terrorist organization. But that was the only terrorist organization where, like, oh, the FBI knew about it. It's like, but we're going to, okay, those guys are cool. Like, they're not doing terrorism here, so we're fine with it. Because half the guys in the FBI were like McGillicuddy, Flynn. Something was like, well, let's go easy on hey guys. Meanwhile, they're like blowing up school buses and stuff. It's like they're doing the same bad stuff, but it's just like they're oh, these are guys like from the neighborhood, or like somebody's uncle was like, oh, he was one of these guys. So yeah.
Well, I don't think they named a drink an Irish car bomb, and in like some circles that would be seen as bad taste to name it that.
Yeah, if you're British and your like son got conscripted into like being in doing their service in Northern Ireland, it's like that's not funny. Or his family was targeted, or they blew up a mall where they knew the people's families shopped or something. Yeah. But yeah, it was weird how we were so schizophrenic about the because most of the IRA funding came from two places. There was parts of Europe and the United States, and it was mainly Chicago and Boston.
Okay.
And most of their weapons came from Libya. Because Gaddafi really like respected them. It's like, oh, you're fighting the British, like they're tough. It's like, I'm really happy for you. I'm going to give you all the AK-47s you need. And,
what did they have a lot of AR-10s? Wasn't that like something there that was considered deadly that they had? Because that was an AR-15 that fired a 7.62 bullet, so it would go through armor and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, whatever they could get, whatever Gaddafi could give them.
Yeah.
And whatever they could scrap together in the United States. Because I know they had like a Barrett 50.
Okay, yeah.
One guy had one. And it like terrified the British. It's like all the IRA snipers have 50 caliber Barretts. Because what those do to people when you shoot them at is devastating. So that became like the object lesson. But it turned out it was like, no, they only had one. And I think they broke it or something. Like it was, something happened with it, but it became more of a legend than a reality. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was weird how schizophrenic like America was though towards the IRA. It's like, well, we're not supposed to like them. The British are technically our closest allies in the world, but you know, damn it, if it a third of the people in this country don't have like Irish ancestry, and it's like you got to feel for them, really. You got to, you know.
Yeah, I remember growing up in the in the early '90s. It was kind of like this thing where it's like Ireland was both like this mythical place that you could go to, and then people would be like, "But aren't there like car bombings there?" It's like, "Oh yeah," they're just kind of like that was the two different Ireland.
Oh, it's described as the longest running civil war in history, and also the only white civil war that was going on in the 20th century. It's like that's the only one. You know, and that's their terms, not mine. They called it a white civil war, and it was so bad in Belfast, like women had miscarriages at almost 3 times the normal rate of anywhere else in the first world because of the constant pressure of, is there going to be a bombing, is there going to be shooting? And it was like, yeah, it was nuts. Like it was like no place else in the world, and it was in Europe. I mean, that was in like, you know, that was in the UK and, you know, Ireland, but it's like that's nuts that was going on there.
Yeah.
And so some of the people that came, and you know, and they had the infamous hunger strikes and all that, and then you read about all the people involved, and it's like, oh, they're terrible. They're just terrible people. It's like they weren't like plucky freedom fighters. Like they're fighting the empire in our movies that we like. Like it's like Star Wars. They're like the rebels. It's like kind of, but also the horrible people that did horrible things. And they did it to gain political power. Yeah, that's a whole weird universe.
um, but I hear like Deirdre seems reluctant to be going along with Seamus here, where she's
Yeah.
like there, like it's like I mean, even she says like we didn't have to kill Larry. And he's like, "Who's Larry?"
I don't even know the people I'm killing anymore. I'm just killing people.
I just know don't kill Gregor because he doesn't have the case, but he knows where the case is. Then Seamus and Deirdre argue about the job going wrong again. Here's like where she's explaining, like, no, I was put on this job because they didn't want you on this job, but now you've inserted yourself into the job. So then we cut to Jean-Pierre and Vincent talk about Sam and him being ex-CIA, where they're like trying to figure out like what's going on there. It's like, why does he need the money and stuff like that? But Vincent kind of owes him because like he saved his life on the when he shot that sniper on the bridge and stuff like that. So he's kind of Vincent feels like he owes Sam, or he can trust him at least.
Well, he says he saved my life. So.
Yeah. But I don't know. What do you think? You think Vincent is like ex-military or like clandestine operation guy, or is he just some like criminal in Paris?
No, he's obviously had his foot in a lot of different worlds.
Okay.
I get the feeling he was some kind of government operative. I just don't know the structure of the French,
Yeah.
how it works. I know the French have a pretty ominous like anti-terrorist unit internally to their country that's like world renowned. Is like, yeah, don't mess with these guys.
Yeah, which one's is it the GIGN or is that the German?
Yeah, GIGN. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what it means. It's like gendarme something. I can only guess, but yeah. I mean, actually, the French are pretty badass internally.
Yeah.
We kind of undersell them as like, oh, it's the French, the people that like lost World War II. It's like, no, they're actually pretty ominous if you threaten them internally.
Yeah.
Externally, they're kind of weird. And they're also like right behind us in Russia in terms of selling guns to everyone in the world. So yeah, it's not a.
I mean, yeah,
we misjudge the French a lot. They're
Yeah.
bigger badasses than what
well, yeah,
we
in the
think.
Napoleon times, they nearly took over all of Europe, and or did
Yeah,
they?
I mean they yeah, they did.
And yeah, they're a lot of military traditions.
I mean, if it wasn't for the French, both
we'd be the British Empire still.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, you cut off. You said something about French military traditions.
Can you hear me?
I kind of hear you.
Hello. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay,
It's
you can
just
hear me
not
fine.
synced up like it should. Yeah.
But you can hear me normally. Like this is you can hear me.
I can hear you, but it sounds really fast, like it's catching up.
Oh, okay, it must be so.
Okay.
Because like you don't sound any different. It seems like you're not catching up at all on my end.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds normal now.
Okay, so yeah, just a hiccup on the internet.
Yeah, it's just something. Yeah, but if it wasn't for the French at the end of the Revolutionary War and the Napoleonic Wars distracting the British Empire, it's like, yeah, they would have come back and done a lot of damage to us.
And a lot of military traditions are based off of French military traditions. Like that's where you get lieutenant from. Like,
Okay.
because like you look at the spelling of lieutenant, it's like why would you spell it that way? And then, I think in the British do that thing, the lieutenant thing, because they're trying to get the. Because I can't remember how to spell it. It's like Leiu or whatever.
Yeah, it is a weird word. How it's the part of our language that's like borrowed from French. Because, like, well, we wouldn't spell things like that unless we were stealing that from French. So,
And it's also like colonel because there's no R in colonel.
no,
It's colonel.
no one says that. Not even the British say it that way. They make their weird received pronunciation to say it that way. It's always Colonel.
um. So yeah, then we cut to here's where they mention that Gregor is a German and ex KGB. So it's like, oh, okay, so that, I guess now his character kind of is brought more into the picture, where he's an in between guy, where it's like, okay, it's he used to be part of the Russian like influence and now isn't, but he's still like a guy that needs money. But for what reason? I don't know. He just likes money. Just needs more gadgets. So
And because we're associating him with the KGB, he's now a monster.
yeah,
Like, yeah, everyone in KGB was a monster.
um. So Vincent asks to track down Gregor, Deirdre, and Seamus. And so yeah, they said so. Yeah, so Jean Pierre still has some contact, like government contacts. So it's like, yeah, we'll find somebody. Then we cut to Sam and Jean Pierre talk about the diorama he made of the 47 Ronin. Here's where we talk about like after they killed the person that like betrayed their master, they then like chose to do seppuku and then like because Sam's all into like, yeah, that sounds like me, and they're like, and then they all killed themselves, like, that's not a good choice.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, but they had a higher power. He's like, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. He's like, well, they chose honor and they chose myth. And he's like, okay, whatever, buddy.
That's like believing in God. That's stupid.
um But yeah, I mean that's just sort of like the analogy of this movie, where these are all the Cold War assets that like no longer have the job they used to. So it's like, what do you do with them, and like what loyalties do they have, and like do they have any honor anymore? So, um, then Vincent and Sam go to an address that they got from Jean Pierre, and they see Gregor and the gang leaving. Which this is where they had the subtitle. It's like Taylor, like
Taylor Supply Company.
yeah.
I actually paused the movie at that point. Is like, was there something I was supposed to be paying attention to? It's like, why is that in there? Because I wasn't subtitles. It's
because like the only thing I know of like espionage, was it Taylor of Panama? That's another espionage related thing. I don't know if that
a gray joint. Yeah.
So I don't know if that had any relation whatsoever, or if they're just like some producer is watching the movie. It's like, you need to translate that. It's like, why does it matter? It's like, no, we need it in the movie. So.
Yeah, they always do this because, like, well, everyone in America has an IQ of 80, so we must explain this for no reason at all. It's like, no one would care.
The one I was like kind of confused about, but then like contextual clues like made is like when they cut to the sign that means like you're going the wrong way, but it's just like a blue circle and a red triangle.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what that means, and then like a moment later it's like, oh, I bet that means they're going the wrong way. Okay. So then we cut to like Gregor's at the post office, and he picks up a package. It's like this rolling drum that delivers his package to him. It's also like that CIA guy says like, hey, if you're asking to go to a post office, that means different things here in Europe, which I'm not sure what that means. I guess maybe like a post office is almost like a 7-Eleven slash post office or something like that.
That's always been a thing, because I know post offices in Japan are also banks.
Okay.
I learned that from Dad. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, post offices in other countries do they provide a variety of services through the government,
Okay.
whereas here it's just a place where you mail stuff and receive packages. But
Yeah.
like in France, I don't know what I know in Japan it's like a bank.
Okay.
And in France, I'm not sure, why they were saying that, but I do know I've learned from Dad. It's like, no, that's yeah, post offices are like, there's a lot more stuff going on.
All government services at your post
Yeah,
office.
it's like it's where you file for Medicare or something.
Do your
Well, I mean,
taxes, send a package, get your
well, I mean,
driver's
in
license.
America, post offices have weird functions too, because that's where you get passports.
Okay.
Is in post offices here, and what else do you? Oh, you register for the selective service. What else
I
did I?
did that. I did that at the driver's license place. The
Oh, and I had to go to the post office and fill out like forms.
all I
Interestingly, we mentioned that because now it's automatic. Did you hear they passed that today?
yeah, but they renewed it, so it's been automatic.
Oh, okay. See, I had to go fill out paperwork.
I never filled out paperwork. All I remember is one time I went to the DMV and they say, "Do you want to register for the draft?" And I said, "Sure." And so, as far as I know, I never filled out any paperwork. I just said yes when I got my driver's license, but it didn't matter because I joined up anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're already in. Only people like me that were looking to like, I'm going to shirk this somehow, get really fat and dumb, in case there's a war. But no, I remember like at school they gave us these cards and it said selective service, and it's like you got to fill this out and take it to the post office,
huh.
and I did, and then the post office gave me another. It's all cards. It's all like this. It's
Yeah.
not like pages of paperwork. But it's like, are you an American citizen? Are you 18? What county were you born in? And I had to ask the lady, like, what county is, the part of Iowa I was born in from? And she knew right away. And she's like, yeah, it's this and this. And I had to fill it out. And it's like, here you go. And so now I could get like loans at a bank or something, because if you don't do that at the time I did it, it's like, that's a felony. Be charged with a felony for not registering for the selective service. It's like, okay. But I didn't think it was a big deal because I didn't think we were going to have like World War III anytime soon. It's like, yeah, whatever.
um.
Grayson had to do it too. Yeah, he had to go to the post office.
Oh,
I
okay.
think.
Because I thought when I read that thing like you're talking about, I thought it said that it basically renewed it, so it has been automatic for some time, but maybe not. Maybe they make it automatic now.
I'll have to ask him. I think he had to fill something out. But yeah.
Because I never filled anything out. So
Yeah. I'm a hell of a lot older than you. So.
um. Then we cut to Sam is outside. He disarms Deirdre outside the post office. Sam doesn't shoot her, and so now because of that, she uses that to get away. And so now they're on a car chase, which Vincent's mad. Like, why did you just shoot her in the head?
Which is like kind of against Vincent's character.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, he's probably the more empathetic people of this group.
Yeah, it's like, just shoot the pretty woman in the face. It's like, no, no, you can't do that.
But I guess by what he knows about Sam, he's like, well, Sam would shoot the guy. From what I know of Sam, he would just shoot her in the face.
Yeah, you think he would.
So maybe that's what he's mad about. It's like, why aren't you being Sam right now? We need Sam.
He should have had a good line in there, like, well, I'm sorry I didn't send you with a cup of coffee. Maybe that would have been some good Mammoth dialogue. It wouldn't have fit the scene. It would have been weird for a French guy to like get that nuance.
Yeah. So they end up chasing a tunnel where the police are giving chase for about 20 seconds before it's like rolled over.
Yeah, the police are done at this point. Yeah, we tried.
Yeah, I mean they're basically they're worse than like the sheriffs and like Dukes of Hazzard in this movie. So.
Kind of like the cops in like the Batman movies.
Yeah.
Like the Nolan Batman movies, where it's like they're there and they show the flag, but then it's like, yeah, we can't keep up with these people. Whoever these guys are.
Yeah, I feel I feel like this movie like deserves like a cut to like the cops getting out of there and like slapping their hat on the car up turned upside down. It's like, you damn Pierre boys or whatever.
Jete
um
merde, jete merde. It's kiss my ass. Only French I know, but
uh yeah, and like this chase goes on for like a couple of minutes, then the music kicks in as they start driving down the wrong way through a tunnel. So
yeah,
this is another crazy scene because then they're also like there's also like this gridded like divider between the two like lanes, and they're like weaving in between that, which is
yeah,
extra crazy. Just nothing but hitting stuff down here. um yeah, this is where like, you know, the Deirdre has a BMW, and they have like the lowly Peugeot trying to chase after it. But
yeah.
I think it's a Peugeot, right? Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Okay, that Sam has. O'Rourke or not? Well, I guess Sam. Seamus starts firing at Sam and Vincent. They don't really fire back, um, until they get clear of the tunnel, and then Vincent's able to like shoot out one of their tires, and then the car crashes, and then it just kind of like falls off the highway that's under construction, like 10 feet down to like some like not really padding, but almost like gravel, so they don't just automatically die from the height of the fall. So it's just plausible that they're still all alive. They're basically all unconscious in the car except for Gregor because he's just too tough to go unconscious. Um, so Gregor gets a case and he starts running off with it, and so yeah, the Vincent and Sam aren't like, you know, too crazy to just like leap off this highway like on ramp that
Yeah, it's like,
hasn't
look, it's sand down there. It's like,
been. um and then some construction workers, they get Deirdre and work out of the burning BMW before it blows up. So then we cut to Vincent and Sam at like a coffee shop, and they're pondering where Gregor's taking the case to. It's like, yeah, where's he gonna go? So then they start pondering about like Gregor's fake case and where he got it, and they're like, oh, the Russians must have made it. But then they're like, no, because it was like quickly made.
yeah. This is when I realized I screwed up because he's like, no, it was painted like
Yeah.
very quickly. It's like, oh, that wasn't a fuse burning.
Well, also you said this time, like, because earlier there's like when he goes to work on Larry, he hands her the coat. He's like, go wash the paint off of this. So, which I think he has a different jacket for the rest of the movie, so I'm not sure. But I guess they need to look less suspicious. Also, I think it was a leather coat, so you can't. How do you wash paint out of a leather coat? I'm not sure. So.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, just use acetone, dry the leather out.
So yeah, they're thinking the Russians made the fake case, but then they're like, nah, there wasn't time for that, and now they're against him, so it's not them. And they learn that the case is for ice skates. They see some like kids that have the case that's very similar, and so he asks them. That's where like Vincent asks them like, "Hey, where'd you get the case?" And he's like, "Okay, they're for skates." And so then they're like, "Okay, he just like found some skate shop or whatever shop with this case in it, and then he had to spray paint it silver really quickly, and so it was all done in a rush." But then, so that still like that still doesn't explain like where Gregor is. It's like, all right, well, let's not look for Gregor. Let's look for the Russians because he's gonna try to get them for money again because that's the only other bidding customer. Although he doesn't take it to the Irish. I'm not sure why. It's like, I guess they would probably have a less bid. He just wants more money. So Gregor like has confidence that he can get more money out of the Russians, being that like he used to work for them, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Just the Russians, even at this time, probably have 1,000% more money.
um,
The IRA.
they get like a contact that's like at like a mechanic shop, and then one guy's like translating, and then like they basically get clued on like. Actually, they don't get any like help from the guy except he looks at a poster across the street. It's like, I bet that's where they're at because there's like this Russian skate show that's in town. It's like, look there, and it's like, okay, so they go there. There's a big crowd for Natasha, like this Russian star ice skater. I guess she used to be an Olympic skater or something like that. I don't know. They're playing this up like it's a red carpet like movie like premiere or something like that. I don't know if this happens for ice skating. I feel like this is a bit made up, but maybe who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's France. They're into weird stuff there.
Yeah. Um, Vincent goes up to a security guard and gets some info from him, which Sam's kind of impressed. It's like, how'd you get that info? It's like, oh, we used to go to high school together. Which I'm not sure if in France they call it high school or if it's called something else. I don't know.
Well, this is a line that Sam used on him earlier.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Talking about finding out where the cell phone number was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because at first I was,
Yeah.
well, I thought, yeah, because at first I thought this line was just something he was using, like kind of Sam's like offhanded remarks against him. But then later on, when Sam has to punch the guy, because Vincent says he can't because he knows the guy, so I thought the high school thing was just a straight up honest statement, but maybe it isn't.
It could be. I could be misremembering that too.
Because otherwise,
those famous Sam lines like, "Oh, we knew each other in high school." You know, his throwaway line. Like, I forgot. I don't know. That's the second thing they taught me is to forget everything.
Well, because otherwise, who is a security guard? Like, do you think he actually went to high school, or does he just know the guy or whatever?
Yeah, you don't know. Vincent seems to know everyone. It's like, yeah, you can just. It's like he can get law rockets in the middle of Paris. So he knows a lot of people.
Oh yeah, where are we right now? Where's this? Is this? Are we back in Paris now?
This is a place called Le Zenith in Le Zenith de Paris.
Okay.
So it's a hippodrome in Paris, which means it's like some kind of enclosed thing.
Okay.
For it's an entertainment venue.
Vincent and Sam go. Vincent and Sam go and sit down in the audience and wait. I noticed that like they have tickets for their performance because the guy checks them. That, they're just not walking around.
Yeah.
We get snipers revealed watching Natasha. Oh, yeah, Natasha does her performance. Sniper is revealed watching her with a rifle. Sam sees, he's got binoculars and he sees like the Miki here having a heated conversation with somebody, and then like the conversation you never hear, just you see it continually escalate to the point where Miki leaves, and so they follow after them. And then Miki's brought before Gregor, like at like it seems like a security station where like they're watching all the security cameras, but like he's the only one in there. So I don't know if he just like killed a security guard or something in here. So yeah, I guess that Gregor negotiated to have an exchange tomorrow, but like to catch him off guard is like, no, we're gonna do it now. Which I guess under Gregor's position, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Sam knocks out the security guard because Vincent doesn't want to do it because he knows the guy somehow. Then we cut to Miki and Gregor make the exchange in the surveillance room. Gregor has the hired sniper that will shoot Natasha if he doesn't get a call from her. And then Miki ignores like the countdown that Gregor gives and just shoots him in the head. And then the sniper kills Natasha. Where it's like, oh, it's just cruel and to what end? You know, it's like we're just saving
a lot of bodies piling up.
Yeah, we gotta save this money. We don't even know it. He just said like he tripled the cost. We never know what the money is, like how much money this is over, but it must be in the millions of dollars. So yeah, Miki and the crew are heading out with the case. Vincent and Sam work their way through like the fleeing crowd because it seems like at first the crowd's like, oh, there's been a medical emergency, but then they get scared and start running off because I think the sniper rifle is technically silenced, but nobody thinks it's a gunshot at first. So, but then they I don't know, I guess they see blood or something and start running out or whatever. But yeah, the crowd becomes an issue now. Then we see Seamus is like pretending to be a guard and shoots down Miki and his guard, and then he takes the case. And then Vincent and Sam are kind of giving a slow chase as they kind of like make their way through the crowd. Then Sam finds Deirdre and tells her to walk away. They've like stolen like a cop car. Here he says like he's here for Seamus and not for the case. And so he's basically like, yeah, I never left the CIA, which I feel like that's supposed to be a big moment, but it's just kind of played offhand here. It's like, yeah, what'd you expect?
You don't know if he's lying or not because he's always been very mercurial about what he's doing and why he's here. So.
Yeah. because also you don't get any background on him. Like ultimately, he always states that he needs the money, but it's like, but why? Like, when you got like a daughter that needs to go through college, because that's like the motivation for every American movie is you got to
Yeah.
put your daughter through
Or
college.
gotta pay for a kidney
Yeah.
transplant. Always something that's like easily taken care of in other countries.
Yeah. um. Then Deirdre takes off, which the Seamus is like, "Oh man, now I can't get out of here." Um, and then Seamus is being surrounded. He shoots Vincent like twice in the chest, and then runs back into the venue. And then Sam catches after Seamus, but then Sam gets shot in the shoulder, and then Sam's about to execute Sam, or no, Sam is about to be executed by Seamus when Vincent shows up and shoots Seamus dead. Which you're like, oh, he took two to the gut, like that's because then he passes out, but then you realize like, oh wait, they're wearing body armor, so he's probably fine. But I guess that it's, uh,
Depends on if he sprayed Teflon on his bullets.
yeah, I don't think he did because like he would be,
Yeah.
he's in the next scene he'd still be in the hospital. I think it just like, must have bruised and probably broke a couple of ribs, and he probably wouldn't be feeling great. So, but there's like a moment where like they both kind of like look at the case and ponder if like they're going to betray each other over the case, and then Vincent just kind of passes out from the gunshot. So,
Huh.
and then we cut to the next day. Here we get like a radio broadcast that's saying that there's been a peace deal in Northern Ireland, and it happening because Seamus is dead now. So that was like a whole sticking point of these. The first time we're hearing of what this was about. And also, never revealed what's in the case. It just had something to do with this. And then, yeah, it also says that like Seamus was like a terrorist of some pretty well renowned and has done a lot of damage throughout the to England or whatever.
Yeah, he actually worked with Hans Gruber. Let's say that.
Yeah, I think you hear they mention like Sinn Fein and stuff like that, which it's always a weird. It sounds like it's like some ninja clan in Mortal Kombat rather than
Yeah,
like.
yeah. It sounds like really bizarre. It's like crazy. It's like no, it's just like Sinn Fein is the political arm and IRA is their combatant arm. But if you, like I said, if you read books about Jerry Adams, he denies they were ever connected, but clearly they were connected. So yeah, Sinn Féin's like an actual political party in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
I think they control. I think they have. I mean, I forget. Last I heard that like they control the parliament there or whatever because they have their own like sub parliament there, and it's all Sinn Fein. But
So we have we cut to like another coffee shop in France, and no, it's actually the coffee shop from the beginning or bar or whatever. Um, Sam's waiting for Deirdre, but she's not coming because like that wouldn't be good. Which this is like a weird thing where it's like, oh, maybe they're gonna get together through this movie. Which I don't know. That's they have one connection. They kissed one time, and then the other time they've been betraying each other the whole time. So it's like doesn't make sense. Where it's like, oh, we found love on the battlefield of
yeah, there's a whole like shed full of corpses stacked up between those two times. It's like, do you think we can think this is sexy? It's like not really. It's actually sad. But, yeah.
Then Sam heads out. He has a funny line where he's like, because he has his arm in a bandage. He's like, I can't even reach in my pocket to pay. And then Vincent's like, I got you. It's like, I'll get you next time. So, he was just kind of like, this is the reward at the end of the movie. Is like they now have kind of a friendship. And then, so yeah, Sam heads out. Sam gets in a car with a CIA contact that was pretending not to know each other in the middle of the movie, but now it's like, oh yeah, we've been working each other the whole time. Then Vincent leaves the bar, and he realizes it's like, oh, that's the one at the start of the movie. And then Vincent goes up the stairs, and he gets a voiceover randomly, and here he gives his like, because they're mentioning like his rules is like, oh, what was the first rule that Sam talks about? Like, if there's ever any doubt, then there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Or it's basically it's like if you think something's wrong, it probably is. And then the second rule is like I think Vincent says like who said that, and he's like I forgot. That's the second and that's the
Yeah.
second rule they teach you.
That's a constant refrain with Sam. It's like asking for facts. He's like, I don't know, I forgot.
And so yeah, Vincent adds a third rule here about like no questions, no answers, accept it and move on, which really isn't what Sam does. It's what he does because that's why he walked in the ambush with Spence because it's like, well, they hired me to do a job, so I gotta go do the job. So, so yeah, that's the end of Ronin. So just a cool kind of like just cool action thriller from the late '90s that
Yeah.
you might not heard of because it wasn't necessarily like the splashiest movie to ever come out, but it's a cool dad movie. It's a movie for dads.
Yeah, it's one of those for sure.
Because again, it's like it's Robert De Niro in his 50s being an action hero.
Like this is possible, right? It's not too late.
I mean, this is a movie. It's like we just get good actors and we like give them guns, and it's like, oh yeah, it's cool. So,
Have good stunt choreography and
yeah.
driving and stuff.
Because I'm not sure like if there's any direct comparisons between this and like Heat, other than there's like chases and gunfire. But there's not really chases in Heat, but there's a lot of cool like operations going on. But like Heat's a bit more long-winded. This kind of gets to it. I mean, this is still kind of a long movie. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, but
Yeah.
But it moves pretty well. So
Yeah, it's very interesting to
and
watch.
it doesn't treat the audience like idiots because it like barely explains anything, but it has great Mamet dialogue. So it's just the great fog of Mamet to like make you believe there's more of a story here than there actually is.
Yeah. Spartan effect. So I just want to hear these guys talk. Yeah, the story's ridiculous, but yeah, let's talk because it's fun.
Yeah,
And it also has great car chases. Like the
Oh,
car
yeah.
chases are insane.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
and all the equipment they get to use, like especially in that one scene where Sam gets like 5 different guns to use. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, what was I say? Like the best reload is a fresh
gun,
weapon.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, throw the old stuff down. Doesn't matter.
It's like video game logic. Although he's
Yeah.
not picking up guns from fallen enemies, he just has more guns. Have a
I
gun
want those
for-
magazines where you grab them and they automatically like stack up for you. Like I don't have to unload this magazine. You know.
So yeah, like I guess one of the reasons I picked this movie is it felt like it's just like kind of a forgotten movie because it just doesn't have. It's not necessarily the '90s movie you think of, although this is late '90s, so it's a whole different thing unto itself. Because it's, but it is definitely of the era where it's like thrillers was a '90s era, like that's what you did, and here it's a combination of a thriller, action, espionage. Political stuff is hinted at, but it's not really there at all. It's all vague. So,
Yeah.
but that stuff.
Yeah, you know what they're talking about. Yeah, this is.
But this is also a more down to earth one because, like, like Mission Impossible is almost like it's almost like a dreamlike version of espionage. It's like, wait, what's going on here? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if espionage was a video game / the best fiction novel you ever read, it's like that's Mission Impossible. This is like, well, this is all doable if you're at the edge of a skill set that anyone could actually acquire.
Yeah.
Versus just insane, like, oh, I can jump out of planes and fly helicopters and all this stuff at the same time. It's like, no, that's not
But
realistic.
yeah, like I don't know, like this stuff. As far as I know, like it happens in real life, but it happens in like war zones.
Yeah.
This isn't stuff that just happens in the middle of Paris. Like, maybe like one aspect of like these entire chase scenes will happen, but this whole thing happening in one day, like that's never good. That's never happened.
Yeah, no, it's kind of it's like, what if everything happened all at once? What if we compressed 10 years worth of crime into 10 minutes? It's like, yeah, that's what this would be.
But I don't know. Also, we don't know about CI operations. We just, there's the ones we do know about, it's like, man, that's crazy and that's really expensive, but man, you handled it. So, but again, that's like government backed stuff that requires millions of dollars to make happen. So,
Oh yeah, just
and
read Charlie Wilson's War if you want to know about CIA operations.
well, that and there's like the Obama raid and stuff like that, where you got like two silent helicopters and or like
I
you
mean, the Osama bin Laden raid.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
did I say the Obama raid?
Well, it kind of was.
Oh yeah, I guess it was. He was president. Yeah.
He was sitting in a conference room like this. We're using space helicopters and stuff, and we're going into a sovereign country's territory who's technically an ally, but yeah.
And there's even some of those like Israeli operations, or I forget the one where it's like, was it the one where there was a plane being taken hostage and like they ran through a scenario, like they set up an exact scenario and like ran through it like for like a week and then just did it and took over the plane or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that was I forget which plane that was. Yeah, that was with the hostage taking crisis of the 70s,
Yeah.
where the guys had bombs strapped to them. It's like if anyone comes on the plane, and the Israelis figured out, it's like, okay, we're looking at 20% loss of hostages, but we can do this. And it said, how can you get that number down to 0? And they just kept replaying it until they're like, yeah, we can do this. It's absolutely insane. We could do this. Those are the Israelis of old. The new Israelis aren't doing as well. It's like, how can we like kill this one bad guy? It's like, I don't kill 300 families with like artillery strikes. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sell. How can we sell that to the public? Like, that's the calculus being done now.
We'll declare a war and then it'll just be a war zone. It's like, wow, that's not really what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, of course now we have those like are they Hellfire missiles or the ones? Now they don't have explosives in it. They just have like giant samurai swords that open up. So we make sure we don't.
Yeah, those are Hellfire missiles. Yeah,
but yeah, make sure that we're not having the collateral damage where we're like when we were like blowing up like wedding anniversaries or weddings to get one guy and we killed like 200 people at a wedding. Now we can just kill.
They use those on Soleimani. At least that's the fiction they're trying to sell. So I don't know if it's true or not. But I heard that there were people standing like right next to him that weren't killed. So it's like, well, it's got to be something like that then.
Yeah. And then I saw something about like an actual broken arrow. It was like from the 50s, and I guess like the bomb dropped and didn't detonate, but it was so large that when it fell from that distance, it still like created a like kind of like blast radius of just hitting the ground and like killed 3 people. I was like, oh, and it didn't explode. That's great.
Is that the one in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What's that called? The Goldstone incident or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, that was the one where the plane malfunctioned and they always flew with the bombs armed. But the guys who bailed out of the plane, the last guy turned the switch to disarm, because actually, if the plane went down below a certain altitude, it just would have detonated because they used to fly like that.
It might have been that, or maybe this is an Alabama one. There's one, yeah, somewhere in some of the southern state. Because this one, what I learned about is some guy was in the back climbing over the bomb or around the bomb and accidentally pulled like a release switch. And then the bomb just dropped. It was unarmed. Bomb just dropped because it was so heavy. The bay doors just opened up and the bomb just fell through.
Yeah, that could have been. There's been a few of those.
Yeah. But
this is why we came up with the. This is why when like Kennedy became president and McNamara was like, "So how do these nuclear bomb things work?" It's like, well, technically the guys flying the planes can just like arm them and drop them. And it's like, they can set off multi-megaton explosions just on their own initiative. It's like, well, they're supposed to wait for like a radio to call them. And he's like, oh, no. This is not what we're doing. Because I think they could have like incinerated North Carolina or something with Goldstone, because the guys that jumped out of the plane, they remembered before they jumped out of the B-52. They're like, oh, yes, put that to disarm. So when these bombs at altitude, They don't, because remember the bombs back then were huge.
Yeah.
They were like 5 megaton, warheads, like insane yields. And it's like, yeah, we might want to disarm those before we bail out of the plane. But yeah, they said like North Carolina would have been uninhabitable for 5,000 years if that went off.
And then, reading that story, I also learned that was, in that case, it was an actual broken arrow, which means that a bomb fell and didn't go off, so it's unexploded nuclear bomb. Which the movie Broken Arrow, the scenario is it's the bomb's been stolen intentionally, and there it's called an empty quiver, I guess is the technical term, but Broken Arrow sounds cooler. I wouldn't want to see an action movie called Empty Quiver. I do want to see Broken Arrow.
Oh, you want to learn about grim military codes? You know what the term for America after a nuclear war is?
What's that?
Protocols are called Fated Giant. Basically how you rebuild after a nuclear war.
Yeah.
And also things like COG and all that. It sounds like Gears of War, but it is, because it means continuity of government, but it's like the plans are so grim and hopeless. It's like, why don't you just all take cyanide capsules, because you're never recovering from this. But
well, we're sending a probe into space containing the supercut of scenes from the Imperfect Collection. That is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from Ronin are we shoving into space?
Well, we've got to send the scene of the first car chase.
Okay.
Because that's what everyone knows. But I think a preamble to that scene would be the bar scene. Because that's actually how the first bar scene is actually how all the characters interact through this whole movie.
Yeah.
But the car chase is going to draw the aliens in, and the bar scene will give them nuance, which is a French word, which is important in this movie.
There's a certain je ne sais quoi.
It does, yes.
We also, you can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Ronin?
We're giving Ronin 5 stars, just for the cool factor, and because David Mamet wrote some of the script, supposedly. Whatever. I'm going to say he did, because all the Sam dialogue seems like just speak to me. So it's like, yeah, cool.
This is a movie with cool dialogue, and that's what Mamet's known for. So, how much of a scenario it is, how much the scenarios he changed, I have no idea. They got cool car chases out of it. Whether that was Frankenheimer or Mamet, who knows, or Zeitz or whatever the JD Zeitz. He had some contributions that are worthwhile. We can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. You can cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast whatever you want on the platform of your choice. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest ratings. Remember, you control the algorithm doesn't control you. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.